You want to Mario, pledge. Call to order the work session for July 19, 2021. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young. Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Present.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Present.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson. You have 8 of 12 present. That is a quorum.
Okay, we'll have Commissioner Gage Watts to do our invocation and Commissioner Chavez to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ask that everyone please stand.
Let us pray. God, how we humbly come before your throne of grace and mercy, God, once again, Lord, to say thank you, Lord, for all that you have already done. God, we invite and invoke your presence, God, into this meeting on today, God. Give us wisdom and guidance as we make the best decision for the citizens of Caddo Parish. God, we ask, Father God, that you would continue to bless our land, oh God. We ask, Father God, that you would continue to stop the violence, oh God. And Lord God, we ask, Father God, these things in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. And we believe that it is so. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody please face the flag, render the proper salute, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Norman Gage Watts and Commissioner Mario Chavez for those. We're down to agenda additions.
We do have 2 agenda additions today, at least that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if you may have any additional ones.
Okay.
But if they do not appear on your screen, if you could refresh it, you'll have the 2 potential agenda additions on your screen.
I see 2.
One is, the first one is a potential addition of a special resolution for Marco French, who is the principal at Queensborough, who was awarded the Principal of the Year for the state. And the second is a potential agenda addition for an item authorizing resolution number 59 of 2021.
Make a motion to accept both of them and add to the agenda. If I can get a second.
Second.
Then moved by Commissioner Chavez and seconded by Commissioner Taliaferro to add the 2 agenda additions. Right now, we'll have a public hearing. We'll open up the public hearing to add these 2 particular agenda additions. So anyone who wants to speak in favor or against those can come up now. Seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. We will now vote on the agenda additions. Commissioner Chavez, you want to speak on one?
No, thank you, sir. We'll speak on it later.
Okay. All right. So we'll now can vote to add these to the agenda or not.
All right, and that motion passes with 9 in support, none in opposition.
Next item, please.
That brings us to citizens' comments, where citizens are asked to fill out a comment card, and you can submit it to myself or the president. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and I do know that we've received at least a couple of cards that I put up front. This week, we also received a number of comments online that the senders of those did ask that they be read during the meeting. So if you'd like me to do that, I can do that now or afterwards, or...
Go ahead. I think we probably need to get some kind of understanding on how we do those. I mean, we was doing those online when we was doing the Zoom calls.
Yeah.
But now that we're in person, you know.
Yeah, they need to be in
that's-
person.
Yeah, they typically need to be in person, but you know, I saw them, so most of them are pretty short. So go
They
ahead.
are.
But we just need to get a handle on how we're gonna handle those
I-
by laws.
Agreed. I think technically what we are like required to do is just include them in the minutes.
Right.
So we can stick with that, or, you know, what we have been doing is if they don't specifically ask that it be read, we've just been sending it to y'all or putting it in the minutes, you know.
Okay.
But, you know, if you'd like me to, I can read them. If not, we can put them in the minutes, and certainly I can send y'all a copy after the meeting as well.
We can go ahead and read them, but we do need to address it in our bylaws.
That's great. Okay, so the first comment comes from Mr. Pegius Lloyd, who says, my name is Pegius Lloyd. My address is 3533 Jefferson Page Road. I am ill and wheelchair bound. I will not be able to attend the meeting, but please register my concerns about drilling noise and dust and send somebody out this way to check. The second comment comes from Ms. Josephine Robinson, who says, good morning. Thank you for the items on today's agenda. We wholeheartedly encourage you to vote yes on Ordinance 6093 of 2021. We feel it is a good thing to implement the requirement to resume wearing a mask, because we know a lot of people still believe that COVID-19 and the Delta variant is not real. We have continued to follow the original CDC guidelines. Thank you for all you do to keep your constituents informed. Respectfully, Josephine B. Robinson, TOG District 1 Alderwoman, the town of Greenwood, District 1 Alderwoman, and John W. Robinson, Caddo Parish Communications District 1 Board Member. The next comment comes from Robin Green, who says, I'm ready to request that there be no new mask mandates in Caddo. I do not want to see the children end up having to wear masks on their faces for 8 hours a day again this year, which will probably be the outcome if there is a mask mandate put in place now. We need to get on with our lives. Masks make the days exhausting for everyone, especially children. And then the final comment comes from Ms. Candy Peavy, who says, Dear Caddo Parish Commissioners, trying to stop the transmission of this virus with a mask is like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence. We're dealing with nanoparticles that easily pass through a mask. The most effective way to limit viral transmission is through more frequent, thorough hand washing and isolation of only the symptomatic sick people. Masks have not been found to be effective at preventing this viral transmission or infection, and indeed have been found to cause harmful side effects themselves. On April 24th, 2020, the FDA issued an emergency use authorization for non-surgical face masks. Federal law governing emergency use authorization requires that appropriate conditions designed to ensure that individuals to whom the product is administered are informed that the Secretary has authorized the emergency use of the product, of the significant known and potential benefits and risks of such use, and the extent to which benefits and risks are unknown, and finally the option to accept or refuse administration of the product, of the consequences, if any, of refusing administration of the product, and of the alternatives to the product that are available. I have many pages of reference to support why we should not impose a mask mandate on parish citizens. I'm happy to share these with the Commission. Let's focus on early treatment instead of mask mandates, since now there is plenty of research to support this approach. We should aim to keep people out of hospitals and ICU with effective, safe early treatment, and not give them a false sense of security with a face mask that is ineffectual. And that is from Candy Peavy. And that is the only comments that we received on that.
Okay, I have Mr. Claude Page. Price?
Sorry.
Okay, Price.
Claude Price. My name is Claude Price. I live at 7390 Winder Riedel Road, and we have two residences in 7382 Winder Riedel Road. And I'm here to appeal the decision that the other group of people that going to want to change the property behind us to commercial. They want to open up a trucking company with trailers, lots of noise, and this property we live on has always been rural and residential and agricultural. And I wish to express our that we just don't want this near our property. Well, I don't think we were even considered in the last deliberations. They made up their mind in 30 days to grant them that they could do it. I didn't think government worked that fast. I really didn't. But we have a garden that we depend on for our vegetables. And we have animals there. We have wildlife, deer, rabbit, squirrel, birds. We feed them all. We like the country life. And this addition of a truck company 50 feet from my house, my yard, is totally inappropriate. I'm representing not only myself, but a few of my neighbors who were here the last time we had this, but they didn't know anything about this until I looked it up, and they couldn't make it today. So we just humbly ask that this commission not grant this ordinance. We're just country folk, you know? And I want to mention one other thing too while I'm up here. West Shreveport has become the dumping ground of Shreveport. I don't know if y'all ever been around Flournoy Lucas Road, Winder Riedel Road. It's filthy. I pick up trash on the roads and take it to the dump myself. I've had TVs, mattresses, all sorts of stuff dumped in my pasture. And increased traffic to this area with big trucks will just increase the trash too. Now I've got one home that I'm putting up on the market, and here's a good selling point to the potential buyer. Don't buy an alarm clock. You'll have diesel trucks starting up their engines at 5 and 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning and coming back late at night. When they cleared this property, they worked, I mean, it was 4 acres of trees, beautiful trees. They worked all night without interruption, and they burned the woods and left it unattended. We were very upset about that too. So I just humbly ask that this commission reconsider. I guess I'm out of time. I heard the bell go off. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, can I ask what case is he talking about?
Case number 2113P.
First one on the agenda, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Just want to be sure.
Thank you, sir. Pat Sepulveda. Pat Sepulveda.
She's on her way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To the administrator and the parish commissioners and any guests, I am here to represent Twilight Meadows subdivision. Pine Wave Energy has come into our neighborhood and brought noise and dust. Dust is coming into our homes through the air conditioning system. We are breathing air, breathing dust. The noise. This is how I go to sleep at night. This is what I have to do to stay in my house. Put on earmuffs to block out the noise, especially at night. I have to wear goggles inside and outside and masks inside of my house because I have glaucoma. And the dust affects my glaucoma. I have to wear a plastic shield inside my home because the dust is so bad. Now, if Pine Wave Energy is going to dictate how much noise come into our neighborhood, then let them pay our property taxes. We don't have any say-so about this dust and noise coming into our neighborhood. The drilling site is only a block and a half from our homes on the front. I don't know if you saw the news last night, but a lady over in Timberline is a half a block from it, and you could hear the noise. Can you imagine what it's like for us being only a block and a half from this well site? I have been bullied by these people. I was out trying to record the sound one day, and a white truck pulled right up at the end of my driveway within feet of me. 5 to 10 minutes later, another truck pulled all the way down in my driveway. I can verify this because my neighbors on both sides was outside. Now, if they're going to dictate how much noise we can tolerate in our neighborhood, I've gone through all the chains of command. I called Commissioner Epperson. He referred me to Chuck Wilson and to my city councilman. It is time, if we own this property, that we have a say-so in how much noise. If a car goes down the road and plays their music loud, you stop them and you give them a ticket or you make them appear in court. It is time to stop this drilling and talk about a resolution. We are tired in twilight of going to bed every night with boom, 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 all night long.
Motion to extend.
Second.
I am home 24/7. And all I hear, that's why I put on earplugs to get relief. It's my time up.
No, you got an extension.
You got 2 minutes and
It's
50
time that we stand up for our homeowners and let these oil companies know we own this property. You don't dictate to us how much noise we're going to take from you and how much dust we're going to eat. I have glaucoma and my eyes have dried out. I've been fighting to keep my eyes safe and I can't do it because the dust comes through the air conditioning inside of your home. You can't sleep. I've had many sleepless nights because of this drilling. This drilling shouldn't have never been put this close to a neighborhood. Within a block. If you go straight through the woods from my house, I'm within a block of it. They've been promising to put water on the sand. I don't care how much water you put on it. If it's 103 degrees outside, it's going to dry it out. So what the resolution is, I don't know. But somebody needs to stand up for Twilight Meadows subdivision. My neighbors say, don't do it because they are not going to do anything about it. They don't care. This is what the people and the citizens of Caddo Parish think, that you don't care about what happens to our neighborhood. We're tired of it. It's been 3 long months of this. 3 long months. I can't even go out. People don't even own transistor radios anymore. But I do. I used to go out to sit in my garage and play my transistor radio. But I can't even do that because dust is outside, dust is inside. So that's all I have to say. But what I say to all of you, what you do unto us, you do unto God. God made us all. We all came from Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We all brothers and sisters. So do the right thing by your brothers and sisters. Everything you do, God sees it. He hears it. And anything you do in secret, He knows what you're doing behind closed doors and in secret. Do the right thing and take care of your brothers and sisters. These oil companies not going to be here to pay you taxes, but we are. I've been there 47 years paying taxes at this address. So it's time.
Thank you, Mr. Bubba. Your time is up.
Sir,
Your time is up.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Carroll.
Good evening. Bruce Carroll, 249 West 84th Street, representing Shady Grove Church after-school learning program where we provide after-school help and tutorial for children in the Cedar Grove community. Each afternoon during school, we may service about 50 students in that area, academic support, enrichment, snacks. We have certified teachers. Also, when the pandemic hit, we were able to provide a service virtually for those same students. But this year, the funding had been cut, so we're asking that we would receive extra funding in order to continue helping the students needed in our community. And that's why I'm here on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Thank
Colonel
you.
Rogers?
Good afternoon, President Johnson, Vice President Atkins, other commissioners. I come this afternoon, first let me say thank you for your support of MLK CDC. There are many initiatives that we can do based on funding from this body. The other issue is that there has been put forth an effort to do drilling in the MLK area. We have had several community meetings held by different groups, but there was a meeting last Thursday held by our state representative, Mrs. Cedric Glover. And at that meeting, there was legal counsel present and some more information. He has crafted a letter. I think I did send that to Mr. Epperson. Did you get that? Okay, he has crafted a letter to Mr. Richard Ayub for the Conservation Committee that will be hearing this. And I think the hearing is set for tomorrow, the 20th. I don't have my facts with me. My apologies, but I'm almost certain that's the date because we do have a group that's going down. The reason I'm asking you to support Representative Glover's efforts is it would give the community more time to look at the proposals, to be able to find counsel. I've talked to 3 different legal counseling entities and have not been able to secure an attorney from us. Even our attorney who helped with the real estate properties for our building, it's kind of difficult because many of the attorneys are already bought up by the large drilling companies, okay? So I'm just asking that you at least have a dialogue with Representative Glover in the effort to withhold this decision on whether to drill or not. The reason being there are several people within my community who have not been at these meetings due to lack of illness, transportation, whatever. There are a lot of them who have not been, and there are several who have been, but there are a lot who have not been. So we need a little more discussion because at many of the meetings, and I've been to almost all of them that they had, there is no real general conclusion right now in terms of wanting to sign oil leases due to some of the things that Ms. Sepulveda though just said within her speech that you heard, okay? Those questions have come up in our meetings. We'd like to have all the answers available and possible prior to saying that they can come in and do the drilling because we have a lot of senior citizens in our area. Some of this, what she's saying, would be detrimental to them. So I thank you for your time and hope that you will support what Representative Glover has put forth. Thank you very much. Any questions?
We can't ask questions right now.
No, I mean if you had questions of me.
No.
Okay.
That's all on public comments. Next item.
Next item brings us to visitors, and if I could, after we publish the agenda, 2 of the visitors that were scheduled on this did reach out to the office to say that they have had some matters come up that they needed to reschedule for Thursday, if possible. Both Dr. White and Dr. Murnane are definitely available Thursday, but we're not available today.
Move those two to Thursday for visitors.
Second.
It's moved by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Chavez. Does that pass by acclamation?
Yes, that's fine.
Passes by acclamation.
All right, the next visitor we have listed is Georgiana Violet. Is Violet here? Okay, I see Tim says that he maybe heard from her. She's not able to come today, so maybe we're looking to see if we can reschedule her.
Okay, is Ms. Frazier here? The Church
Ms.
of
Francis?
Highlands?
Ms. Francis? Ma'am, please come forward, please. She's from the Church of the Highlands.
Okay.
And Commissioners,
If you noticed that in the news lately, there was news about immigrants coming through Shreveport. Ms. Francis is gonna give us an update on what the Church of Highlands is doing with those immigrants. So,
Hi, yeah, I was asked to come to answer questions. I understand there have been some concerns and just some confusion about what's been happening. So I am a member of Church of the Highlands. I'm also one of the volunteer leaders of Louisiana Advocates for Immigrants in Detention, which has been around for about 2 years. We have 8 immigration detention centers in Louisiana, 1 across the border in Natchez, Mississippi. And there are thousands and thousands of immigrants that are detained in Louisiana. The vast majority of them are asylum seekers, so they are here having fled persecution, violence, and are here pursuing their legal right to asylum. The U.S. is a signatory to several international treaties establishing the right to pursue asylum in a safe country. And so they're going through that process. And we have been in Shreveport since about the end of March. We have been assisting asylum seekers who are released from detention find transportation to reunite with their families here in the United States. So most of them stay with us for a day or 2 at most, and then they fly to reunite with their families or take a bus, or sometimes their families drive to come pick them up. So we've hosted or assisted over 400 people from 42 countries over the past few months. And we are also filed a civil rights complaint against ICE on Friday, along with several other groups, including Freedom for Immigrants and the Southern Poverty Law Center, relating to violations of the standards that ICE is supposed to follow around the release of immigrants. So they have been forcing immigrants to pay for taxis from places like Gina and Jonesboro and Winfield, sometimes up to $600, when ICE is supposed to provide free transportation to the nearest public transportation hub. They've also been releasing asylum seekers without giving them a chance to contact their families first in order to make transportation arrangements for them. And so that does put immigrants in danger. They've also released at least 4 individuals that have either an intellectual disability or a mental health condition. That means that they're not able to travel independently without any kind of post-release plan for continuity of care, which is also illegal. And so we have been, we filed the civil rights complaint. We've been talking with congressional staff and other elected officials about the need for ICE to do what it does in every other state except for Louisiana and Mississippi, and provide transportation and also to coordinate with us. So we went to the Shreveport bus station when the 2 buses of immigrants were dropped off, and all of them have now left Shreveport. They've gone on flights or buses and rejoined their families. And so we would like for ICE to do what they're supposed to do, but also to coordinate with us so that we're able to meet the buses when they do arrive, provide access to Wi-Fi, phones, provide translation when they're trying to buy a bus ticket or a plane ticket, and help facilitate their reunions with their families. So if you guys have any questions about what's going on.
yes.
Okay.
I got two questions. What are some of the countries of the immigrants? You said it was 42. Just give me roughly about 5 to 10?
So Haiti, obviously, Cuba is probably the largest number of asylum seekers, Venezuela. We've had several from African countries such as Cameroon, which is currently undergoing a genocide, Mauritania, which has modern day slavery, Sri Lanka, China. I mean, just
That's good.
a lot.
All right, second one, what is the protocol typically when they come through our area?
You mean once we meet up with them?
Yes.
Or, okay. So whenever we pick someone up, because usually we've been picking people up from detention, but sometimes we've been meeting them.
Have they
No.
been like in bus loads, or they been like buses? I mean, vans?
So ICE is supposed to be bringing them in buses. That just started this week, and it was all of a sudden without any notice to us or obviously anyone in the area. Before that, we'd been driving to pick them up, or taxi drivers had been taking them. Some of the taxi drivers will follow through with their families, take them to a hotel, go back the next day and get them to the airport or the bus station. Some of the taxi drivers don't speak Spanish or any of the other languages, will take them to an airport or a bus station and leave them there. And they may or may not have a ticket, they may or may not have a way to contact their family, so they'll end up stranded. And the airport does close at night. And so that's not really a safe situation. So what we've done when we pick them up is we let them call their families, first of all. We give their families information about, this is the name of the airport where you're going, this is the name of the bus station, here's where you can go online and buy a ticket. Please email us the ticket information and we will get them to the airport or to the bus station in time for them to catch their flight or their bus. And then we have volunteers have donated, so we feed them, help them with supplies, and just make sure they have everything they need to get on their way.
And how long has this been going on?
So we first started hosting, we hosted a couple people in February, but we first started really hosting large numbers at the end of March. We're part of a statewide network that's been doing this for at least 1.5 to 2 years, but because the number of people being brought to Louisiana and getting released from Louisiana has increased, we started building more capacity in Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans, which are a little bit further from the detention centers, but have larger numbers of people that are able to help, because the volunteers in Alexandria and Monroe and Lafayette, needed some assistance. So we're throughout the state and also in Natchez, Mississippi.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. The lady from the Church of Highland, what was your name?
My name is Frances.
Francis, thank you for coming down. As a grandson of a Mexican immigrant, I applaud you for what you're doing. So first off, I didn't want you to think you were coming down here to kind of get riddled with questions, but I know our job obviously is being the hands and the feet, and you guys are doing that. So thank you for doing that. But likewise, we have citizens that are reaching out to us with questions, with concerns. So it's always twofold. It's first off, we have to care for the people of the world. Obviously, we're instructed to do that. But likewise, we have to care for the citizens of Caddo. And the citizens of Caddo reached out to us and started asking a lot of questions. Obviously, we got them Saturday, Sunday, all this morning. And the questions were, are these people vaccinated? They don't have IDs. Do they have criminal records? Do they have terrorist affiliations? All these questions that people are asking. So you, Commissioners, you'll see a resolution that we put on here via Agenda Edition. It's just asking that the Homeland Security Director and the Louisiana National Guard, that they work in conjunction with whomever knows what's going on to kind of get the citizens some answers, so that A, we can care for the citizens like what you guys are doing. And I even asked the administration if we could appropriate some funds. Thankfully, Dr. Wilson said that's not needed because the Church of Highland is doing that so graciously. So thank you to the volunteers that have volunteered and stepped to do that, to take care of the people. But simultaneously, I know there's a lot of questions on where are these people going, how are they going to get there. So I talked to the director of the Homeland Security today, and he said he was going to address it as well, because he was unsure of what was going on just as much as we were. Dr. Wilson, I left you the number for the local ICE department that's here on Marshall Street. And we're with you too, Ms. Francis. We'd like to know why ICE didn't tell you that this was going on, why they didn't tell us. I know Attorney Frazier, I asked to draft a public records request information, and you're going to send that to me, so Commissioners, I'll send that on my letterhead to get us some information from ICE. because that's the last thing I want to do is put our citizens in danger of what's going on when all they're trying to do at the Church of Highland is help people. So if we can all collaborate together to get the help from the refugees accomplished, because that is the goal of America. At the end of the day, even if I'm a immigrant, everybody at this horseshoe, everybody in the audience, we all came here from somewhere else. So we have to find a way to adequately help the people that come in, but safeguard our citizens who we're ultimately responsible for. So that's why you see this agenda addition on here, and I know Dr. Wilson invited Ms. Francis down here. So thank you for what you guys are doing, and hopefully by Thursday we'll have some more information to spread out to everybody.
Yeah, I can speak to the issue about like criminal records and terrorist affiliation. So in the screening process that ICE does, they do like ask questions and they look into their background. And so when they are considering whether or not to parole or release someone on their own recognizance, if that person is believed to have terrorist affiliations or be a threat to national security, they're not released. So that is part of their procedures, that they do not release anyone that ICE believes to be a threat to national security. And
that's very comforting, because I asked that same question to some other authorities, and they did not know the answer. So I know some of the citizens can rest easier knowing that at least they're getting vetted from terrorist organizations, and we won't have to deal with that coming down the line.
That's like one of, because I've seen the questions that they get asked in the process, and that's like a reason why they would deny parole, would be if they consider someone a threat to national security.
Again, Francis, thank you for coming down. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
Okay.
Thanks, President.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Stormy Gage-Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Francis, thank you so much for your service. You have addressed many of my questions that I had. I just wanted you to reiterate that these immigrants that will be coming through, they are not staying in Shreveport, Caddo Parish. Mm-hmm. How long approximately are they here?
Most are here 1 to 2 days. Occasionally, if they're going to a different family member than the one they originally planned to go to, they might stay a few days longer, but none of them that we've had so far are planning to stay here permanently. I mean, we could potentially get someone whose family lives in Shreveport and they're planning to stay in Shreveport, but that has not been the case. I mean, there have been several people who have gone to Dallas because that's where their families are, but they have to let ICE know where they're going to be residing, and they have to follow up with their immigration court process through the asylum process. And so they have an address that they're going to, and all of that is filed with the ICE officers, and that's where they travel to.
Thank you. Also, you mentioned that the funding that is being allocated is from private donors.
I believe that the city of Shreveport assisted with funding for the overnight housing for the 16 Haitian women that arrived on one of the buses on Thursday. And like I said, we do not get much warning. We have tried to communicate with ICE about releases. They have all of our phone numbers because we pick up regularly from the detention centers, but we did, the bus station is who let us know about that second bus for us to be able to go there. And, they spoke Creole and some Spanish, but no English, and had no phones. And their families hadn't been notified that they were getting out. So most of them did not have money on them. So, we think that ICE can do a better job following its standards. And I, would encourage you guys to work with the mayor and the city of Shreveport and reach out to Congress about ensuring that ICE follows the standards that they're supposed to do to protect the safety of the immigrants that are getting released.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions?
Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Francis, thank you for your help and for educating us on this matter. I'm better informed now than I was at the beginning of the meeting, so thank you for that. One remaining question that I have just for my education is, how long does the political asylum process typically take to resolve? I understand most of these people are passing through Shreveport to other locations where they have family, but how long will they be in our country before are they appealing for citizenship? Is that part of the asylum
So I'm not an immigration lawyer. I think that it can take like 2 or 3 years. So basically there's the original asylum hearing, then there's an appeal process potentially after that, or if something changes in their country, they can file new information based on changed country conditions. And then if they win asylum, I don't think they automatically get a green card. I think there's like still a period of several more years of that. But again, I'm not an immigration attorney. I do know that, you know, everybody agrees that the immigration system is broken and that there should be a way for people's status to not be in question for so long, that there should be a faster way for the asylum process to take place.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe most of my questions have been answered through the dialogue with Commissioner Chavez and Commissioner Atkins. Except for one thing, the word I am getting is that there's more to come. Is that the same word that you're getting?
So again, we find it very hard to get good information from ICE, even if, say, a family member calls us to pick up their family member, trying to find out when that person is getting out is very difficult. So we've heard that there would be more, but again, it's just none of that is concrete information. So you guys might be able to get a better response if you were to write a letter to ICE about you know, how many people are being held, how many people are going to be released. Are they going to continue basically using Louisiana like a second border, where they bring people here, hold them for a few weeks, and then release them in the middle of rural Louisiana with, you know, which we have our organization, but we're not like Texas or California where they have long-standing, you know, immigration organizations and lots of immigration lawyers and resources to deal with it. Louisiana is second only to Texas in the number of immigration detention centers, and frankly, like, we're not equipped to support those large numbers of people. I would also add, I think that I may have sent all of you, but I'm not sure if I sent it to everyone, a copy of our civil rights complaint, which does include in it the standards that ICE is supposed to be following and the actual language of what they're supposed to be doing. And so if you guys have not gotten that, I'm happy to send it to you so that you could see, you know, what it is that they're legally required to do that they are in fact not doing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you,
Dr.
ma'am.
Wilson.
Yes, Mr. Francis, I sincerely appreciate your willingness to come and share this with us today, and especially at the last minute, and I do thank you so much for that, sincerely. There was some rumors that we had 17 busloads of additional immigrants coming to the community, and I think you and I spoke about that briefly on the phone today, and there's no way to confirm that. We don't know. There's no way of knowing that for a fact. Is that correct?
I mean, y'all should just call the New Orleans field office and ask them, because
Yes, ma'am.
they might answer you where they don't answer us. As what we understand, and the bus station does have my phone number, and they did call me, is that there were 2 buses that came on Thursday. And all of those immigrants, you know, as far as we know, have since, I mean, the ones that we had contact with definitely have all flown out or taken buses to reunite with their families. But all we know of it last week was that there were 2 buses.
Okay, so it sounds like immigrants been moving through the community inconspicuously for the last few months without us knowing at all. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers have gone up recently, but it's just, you know, anywhere that you're released from an immigration detention center, then you have to travel to where you're going, and that's
Right.
been happening. I mean, Louisiana has 8 immigration detention centers, and they release people all the time.
The eight detention centers?
Mhm.
Okay, and it doesn't appear that they pose an imminent threat to the community. That would be your assessment?
No, they're refugees.
Okay.
They're like, all they want to do is go find their families. You know, some of them are seeing their kids again for the first time in months or years, you know, or they're seeing their spouse again. So they just want to get on a plane, enjoy being in a free country, and, you know, reunite with their families.
Okay. And my last comment is thank you for being your brothers and sisters' keeper, and for the work that you all doing. And because no one want to be destitute, and we understand in America this may not be the perfect country, but it's still the best country on the planet, and a lot of folks want to definitely come here. So thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. And if you guys have any further questions, feel free to
Still
reach
got
out to
some more
me.
commissioners.
Okay.
Commissioner Jackson. I think we got everybody going to speak on this one.
What?
Go ahead. Question.
Huh? Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, Francis, how you doing? Just a quick question, if the individuals who get off the bus or however they get here, what if they choose to just stay, or is that not part of the process? What if they choose to say, hey, I don't want to get on this flight, I want to make Shreveport and Caddo Parish home?
I mean, we've never had like that happen. I mean, they're free like to change, like file a change of address with ICE. They would have to have someone here that's willing to sponsor them, like someone that would be willing to support them while they're going through their immigration, like asylum process. But I mean, once they're released, like they're in a free country, and they are just supposed to keep ICE updated about where they are and if like who they're staying with, so that they could do that. But I mean, everyone we're talking about, they want to see their families again.
The point I'm trying to make is there's a process if they decide, hey, I just want to.
Right. I mean, if they chose not to let ICE know where they were living, then that could have consequences for them in their immigration court system.
But I think you answered my question. Yeah. That they have to report.
They do have to report. Yeah, they have to report to the ICE office that's the closest to where their family is that they're going to live with.
And I mean, hypothetically, a bus can show up in Longview, right? And folks can get off the bus in Longview and decide to travel east and say, I'm where I want to be. They just have to report that back to ICE or.
Yeah, it's my understanding that as long as they have, a court date and they're going through the asylum process, then they have to keep their ICE officer informed about where they're living. And sometimes they think if they are, going on vacation or something, they have to either get permission or update that. There's different requirements depending on what kind of parole they have. But yeah, they do have to keep ICE updated about where they're living or if they're going to change where they're living.
They're just not wandering on their own, free will, whatever. They have to report back.
They do have to report back, yes. They're released with documents that have certain conditions about what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to show up for court. And like 99% of people in the asylum process show up for court.
And they report back when they...
Yeah, they report back. Yes.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thank you, Francis, for coming out today. You mentioned earlier about a complaint that was filed on ISIS from you all or from another entity?
So there were several groups that joined in this complaint. So it was our group, Louisiana Advocates for Immigrants in Detention, Voices Unidas, which is out of New Orleans, Freedom for Immigrants, which is a national group, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is pretty well known, Church for the Highlands. There's a church from Monroe. I don't know, there were maybe like 8 or 9 groups that were involved in submitting this complaint together. That was specifically citing the violations of ICE's national detention standards around release, and most specifically that they're not allowing communication with the families. They're not providing materials to the immigrants getting released about their transportation options, and they're not providing the transportation to a public transportation center. They've been forcing people to pay for taxis, threatening people, and it's not okay what they're doing.
So this complaint is lodged with the DOJ or what department? And who makes a determination on whether or not they violated the things that they've been alleged?
So again, I'm not an immigration lawyer, and there are lawyers in some of the other groups that could. I mean, they're not here. I could have you guys follow up with them, with Freedom for Immigrants, the Southern Poverty Law Center. But my understanding is that the federal government would investigate what ICE is doing. This is not the first civil rights complaint that we filed against them. There have been allegations of torture, particularly against African asylum seekers, medical neglect, just multiple things that have happened in these detention centers. So, we've been a part, like our local group has been a part of multiple complaints that have been filed against ICE, some of which are currently under investigation by the federal government.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Francis, you mentioned that ICE sometimes take these refugees and bring them to Louisiana, as I understand it, maybe even another state, and maybe even just dump them pretty much. My question is, who does ICE answer to? Because I've been listening to this thing about ICE and many of the things that they do, which doesn't seem to be above board, but they don't seem to answer to anyone.
Right, so they're under the Department of Homeland Security, so it would be Secretary Mayorkas. But my recommendation would be for, if you guys wanted to reach out to Representative Benny Thompson, who's in Mississippi, but he's head of the Homeland Security Committee in Congress, and they would provide oversight over what ICE is doing. You guys could also call the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, because ultimately, you know, the Department of Homeland Security answers to the White House. And I think that, you know, just the multiple things that they've been doing, you know, torture, abuse, medical neglect, and then the way that the post release is being done in a way that endangers the immigrants. Like, I mean, I don't think that, you know, the citizens of Shreveport or Caddo Parish are at risk in any ways. I think that it's really the immigrants that are at risk if they end up stranded, you know, without money or a working phone in a country where they don't speak the language. I mean, I think that they're really the ones that are at risk. They're not, you know, dangerous by any means. So I think that if you guys wanted to reach out to the White House Office on Intergovernmental Affairs or to Representative Benny Thompson, then they would be appropriate people to help get to the bottom of this and try to make sure that the standards are being followed.
My concern, when you mentioned Benny Thompson, that's a committee. And it is not a department like DOJ, where you can go directly to someone in charge. I'm not sure even if we send information that it would actually get to anybody that could actually do anything about it, because it appears that ICE is so free-willing that nobody really have any authority over.
Well, I mean, former Representative Richmond is now in the White House, so.
Who was that?
The former representative from New Orleans, Cedric Richmond, is now in the White House, and he's from Louisiana, so he might be a good person. I mean, maybe go to the White House or go to Secretary Mayorkas, who is over Homeland Security. I mean, ultimately, like, the president and Secretary Mayorkas are the ones who are responsible for what ICE is doing. I mean, the ICE answers to them.
Well, it seems like the problem is rather serious. I know it's raising public concerns that we need a point of contact, and if you don't know it and you've been working with it all this time, I'm not sure where we're going to find it.
I mean, we did talk to staff at the Congressional Homeland Security Committee on Tuesday. And then, I mean, there have been several members of Congress nationally that different organizations have talked with and have worked with. I mean, Benny Thompson worked on this. Cedric Richmond, when he was the representative from New Orleans, worked on some of the issues in terms of how individuals were being treated in ICE detention before he left to go to the White House. So there have been a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes in terms of advocacy for specific individuals who are being mistreated by ICE. But I think that, you know, to the extent that you guys can take it, because I mean, the citizens, we make phone calls, you know, we call Congress, we call the White House, we send letters, we sign petitions, but you guys are the representatives of the citizens of Caddo Parish, and if you're concerned about how ICE is treating asylum seekers and the way in which these releases are happening, you know, your voice at the White House or at Department of Homeland Security or with members of Congress is definitely much stronger than ours is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Francis. No one else is on the board, so we
Okay.
appreciate you coming.
And you
down.
guys can follow up with me. I think you have my phone number, and many of you have my email address, so you can follow up with any further questions. And I can also put you in touch with some of the immigration lawyers and people who do know a little bit more about this than I do.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks a million, Francis.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next item.
Okay, that brings us to old business. We have no old business scheduled for today, so we can move on to new business, where we have a number of items today. You want me to start just with, start at the beginning? 8.1, authorized introduction of ordinance number 6083 of 2021 in regards to zoning case 21-13-P. It's an ordinance to amend Volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, the Caddo Parish Unified Development Code, by amending the zoning of property located on the north side of Flournoy Lucas Road approximately 515 feet west of Winder Weedle Road, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RA, Rural Agricultural District, to RA PUD, a Rural Agricultural Planned Unit Development District, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto, and this is in District 12.
Commissioner Evers.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the introduction of ordinance number 6083 of 2021 until I can get
Second.
with the constituents.
It's been moved by Commissioner Everson, seconded by Commissioner Carthon to postpone until Commissioner Everson can meet with the constituents in District 12 in that particular area. Commissioner Everson, you want to speak to that motion?
Yes, I monitor basically every zoning change that comes within my district. However, I did monitor this and I did not see any concerns from the community at that particular time. However, there are factions within our area that are not as astute and articulate as far as keeping up with things that's going on with government as other areas are. So therefore, I would like to meet with them and make sure I backtrack and go through everything and make sure they understood what's going on. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item, to authorize introduction of ordinance number 6084 of 2021 in regards to zoning case 21-14-P. It's an ordinance to amend Volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, the Caddo Parish Unified Development Code, by amending the zoning of property located north of Overton Brooks Road, approximately 1,600 feet west of Norris Ferry Road in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RA, Rural Agriculture District, to RE, Residential Estate District.
Move to
And that's
advance to
in District
Thursday.
9.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Everson, Atkins, and seconded by Commissioner Hopkins to move ordinance 6084 of 2021 to our regular session meetings. Commissioner Atkins, do you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just briefly say that there's been no negative pushback on this project. It looks to be well suited for the area, and I'm supportive of it. It sounds like most in the area are. Thank you, sir.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
And that motion carries with 9 in support, none in opposition, and 3 absent. That brings us to the next item, which is authorized introduction of ordinance number 6085 of 2021 in regards to zoning, in regards to zoning case number 21-22-P, an ordinance to amend Volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, the Caddo Parish Unified Development Code, by amending the zoning of property located on the east side of Mansfield Road, approximately 650 feet south of Stagecoach Road, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from I-2 Heavy Industrial District to C2 Corridor Commercial District, and that's in District 11.
Motion moved to Thursday.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Lazarus and seconded by Commissioner Chavez to advance ordinance 6085 to our regular session. Commissioner Lazarus, you want to speak to your motion?
No, sir. Thank you.
Seeing no one on the board, let's vote.
And that motion carries with 10 in support and none in opposition with 2 absent. The next item is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6086 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Rivervote Fund to provide an appropriation of $20,000 for Louisiana urban gardening and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to advance ordinance 6086.
Second.
It's been moved by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Carthon, and I think Commissioner Carthon wants to be added as a co-sponsor as well. I have nothing to say about it. Basically, this is just dealing with having some gardens in some of our inner city areas. And this is just a way to do it. Some of the food deserts, just trying to help those out. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor of this legislation.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of, actually, just one quick question is that how is this different, or how does this differ, or how does this work in concert with what Shreveport Green is currently already doing with our community gardens? I know that we appropriated about $55,000 to hire a master gardener so they could actually develop and maintain community gardens throughout the city and or the parish.
That question is to the chair, that question to administration?
Say that again?
That question to the chair, or that question to administration?
Okay. I guess it's to the chair, since it's your sponsor.
The one that they are doing, that's the one that's in the MLK area. I've seen it sometimes, and I'm kind of disgusted with it sometimes because of the grass. My father was a gardener, had over an acre, and he would be out there every day, either pulling grass or keeping grass out, keeping grass down. I've seen grass pretty high out there, and it's just nothing that I really like to see. But they doing the best they can, I guess. I don't know how busy Shreveport Green and that crew that they have is busy. I don't know, but sometimes I see grass pretty high, and you're welcome to drive down MLK by LaGuardia and look at it.
Oh, thanks. And I understand that this is going to, the appropriation is going to be equally distributed to local churches to maintain their own community gardens within the confines of the church property?
Yeah, so basically what they're going to do is train people on gardening, and as they train them, then there will be a handoff on how to upkeep and keep it going.
And have the church has been selected yet?
I think some of them have, but not all.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Thanks so much.
Some have, but not all.
That's good.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I'd like to amend this to add an area for North Shreveport into it, if I can get a second. Second for that. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to add an area in North Shreveport to it, and I think it's a good idea. Just want to make sure that I know there's a church in North Shreveport that would be willing to participate as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support most any gardening, especially urban gardening. I guess having a farming background, I have an appreciation for this. But as Commissioner Talaferio said, I understood earlier that we had allocated $55,000 to do a pilot program for Shreveport Green, who had not done this before. We haven't gotten a result of that pilot program, and we're adding another $20,000. Is that to that same program, or is this something
That's a different program.
So we're going to have another master gardener, or is it just to go to churches? I'm a little
This
confused on the order.
is a nonprofit organization wanting to put some.
So this is not Shreveport Green, then?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. West, can you come up and talk about the Shreveport Green initiative on gardening?
Good afternoon, Commission. At this time, Shreveport Green, along with AmeriCorps and Shreveport, are doing the MLK garden site. They are out there basically 2-3 days out of the week, and their volunteers out there 2 or 3 days out of the week providing garden services for the MLK garden site. They do a number, as you know, Shreveport Green and LSU Ag are our two agencies that provide garden services for nonprofits and communities throughout Caddo Parish and Shreveport. So they're engaged in a number of projects throughout Caddo Parish and Shreveport. So, but as you know, last year, Caddo Parish Parks and Recreation was doing some garden initiatives, and we kind of slid those funds over to the Shreveport,
Shreveport Green.
Shreveport Green. And, but as far as the Parks and Recreation Department, the MLK Garden is the only garden site that's associated with the Parks Department at this time. But that is facilitated by the Shreveport Green, Shreveport, and AmeriCorps project that is going on.
Point of clarification. Point of information, maybe. Did I hear you say that you shipped you all's funds over to Shreveport Green?
Well, the funds that you're talking about are all used now for external garden programs throughout Caddo Parish.
The 55,000
Yes.
or the 20,000? You said you shifted those funds over.
Yes, so there are all the external funds that are used for gardening now in Caddo Parish are with Shreveport Green now.
They come through SPAR. I mean, not SPAR, but through.
No, this comes
Parish
from
Recreation.
the Caddo Parish administration.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I don't.
Commissioner Jackson.
I guess my question is, will the funds, and I don't go too far, Patrick, I have a question for you as well. Will the funds, I see a distribution of, it looks like about $5,400. Will the funds be, now that we've added, or if this passes with the one added, will it be, I guess, sort of reconfigured? My tongue is tired today. Will we redistribute the funding mechanism? Because it says the cost of each garden is $5,400.
We need to add $5,400 if you're talking about putting in another garden. That's how much each garden typically gonna run, a cost to get started.
So we're just gonna add, so my motion was to add a neighborhood. Do we need to, how does that work?
We need to amend it to also add the neighborhood and add $5,400. So it'd be $2,540 instead of $20,000.
But if you amend it at this point, you'd have to re-advertise.
Yeah, because it's in the title.
To add the additional funds.
Well, could it be, we're gonna go forward with this and then we just come back at a later time and add the funding for it? Or
We can do a separate one.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure, cause, I'm not so much concerned about the total number. I just wanna make sure that cause I do know there's a North Street, well, I don't know that it's necessarily North Galilee. I would like to see Galilee's garden with Ms. Donna, the garden that they have over at Galilee included in this. So, whether it's 20,000 or 25,000, I'd like to see that included. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Patrick, now the Shreveport Green, their gardens, I know we approved that funding. Do you have the sites? I don't think we ever received the sites on where they were. Do you have a list of the sites?
Shreveport Green, they do a lot of SPAR parks. They do a lot of nonprofits and a lot of non-governmental agency departments. They do a number between Shreveport Green and LSU Ag.
But it's just gardening.
Yes, just garden, introductory type of garden. Then some of them do gardening from.
What about starting one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do. Actually, they call it the seed to feed process.
Okay.
They do basically that program to teach
the
you
one I'm
how
talking
to
about
garden
at
from the
Galilee-
seed to feed process.
The one I'm talking about at Galilee is pretty much, there's a shell of it already. I don't know if you saw, I know you go to church over there at Galilee, but they kind of got it up and going a little bit.
Yes.
So I don't know that hers need as much attention, may just need to be kind of incorporated into this urban garden aspect. But there is one that I know of that needs to start. So I don't want that one in this one, but I may need to talk to you about the Shreveport Green.
And some of it sometimes is more literacy and education part of it. So I'm not sure exactly how much detail they're going into it, but some is literacy.
But these two
nutrition
are
literacy.
not working together. Is that you understand? These two are totally, completely separate.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Patrick.
Commissioner Hopkins. Patrick.
I would just say maybe we should, during these next 2 weeks while we get to where we vote on it, maybe we need to sit down with the Natural Resource Committee or somebody in Shreveport Green and this new group, and let's talk about what everybody's doing and what we can do together as far as gardening. I mean, it would be an idea.
Like a master
I'm good
plan.
with that.
So,
As long as we don't have to.
I don't know who's on the committee. So.
Commissioner John Paul Young is the chair.
That's,
Okay.
yeah, Commissioner.
Well, we might not have time to do it with him out
No,
like right now.
we won't.
Okay.
It have to be after that, you know. But we also got the other American Rescue Plan
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
initiative too. So
Yeah, I think they're all worthwhile. I just think we need to know exactly who's doing what and what each can do.
right. So we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Jackson, and it was seconded by
That was by me. I seconded.
Commissioner Hopkins. Attorney Frazier, I see you on the board.
Commissioners, I was just going to, in reference to some of the questions that were asked, there used to be an internal budget in parks for Shreveport Green, which I think was, Mr. Wesley may have been referring to, that they don't exist anymore. The $55,000 grant that you all gave earlier is a separate program, and the first report on that is not due until July 31st. So if we'll receive that before or on July 31st, because it was they have to report through the end of June, and it should detail where the gardens are in that report. So hopefully that will be in on time before your next meeting, and then this would be a separate grant with its own CEA with this separate organization.
Okay.
So we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Jackson to add another area in the
Galilee, we can call it Galilee Baptist Church.
All right, in the Galilee area, and it was seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. Seeing nobody else on the board, vote to either advance it or vote it down.
Okay, and that motion passes with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to authorize introduction of ordinance number 6087 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the health tax fund to appropriate Petco Love Grant proceeds in the amount of $10,000 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move for introduction.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Atkins to advance ordinance 6087 to our regular sessions. Commissioner Jackson, you want to speak to that motion?
Now, I think this is the grant that we received from Petco, and we're just receiving it in, recognizing those grant funds as we should. So congratulations to Animal Services for doing it. I don't know if they want to come up and speak Thursday or when we do a final adoption, but we can invite them up to give us some more details about it at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
And that advances with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. The next item is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6088 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation for the Soul Food Festival and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So move.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Carthon and seconded by Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Carthon, you want to speak to your motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You have at your workstations some information on the Soul Food Festival. At this juncture, I'd like to iterate that Shreveport is becoming a haven for festivals, as go Louisiana and other parts of the state, and it's a great economic opportunity. This event right here will take place at Louisiana Fairgrounds, August 27th through the 29th, featuring local chefs, statewide chefs, and some national chefs from the Food Network. Also have a music component associated with it. Last week when this was brought to my attention, David Bradley of the Louisiana Tourism Bureau was out of town, and so he's the one that does the economic impact studies for us. So hopefully by Thursday we would have those numbers in front of you. But this is going to consist of a local crowd and we tend to get a following of people out of East Texas all the way to Tyler, Longview. And typically these weekend events are going to be a weekend with 2-night stays, which adds to the component of the hotels. So I think it's something that's in tandem with the way our economy is kind of looming in North Louisiana on that the I-20 corridor. So it's something I think will be economically beneficial to the local community, and our money should support.
Commissioner Atkins.
Commissioner Cawthorn answered my question. I was going to ask about the Convention Tourism Bureau's economic impact study, so I'm glad to hear that we'll have that by Thursday.
Yeah, Dave got back in town today.
Okay, and I agree that our economy is benefiting more and more from festivals of this nature. So I look forward to seeing how the numbers look on Thursday. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was also going to ask about the impact study, and one other thing is do we, or actually whoever's putting this on, are they in communication with the Lieutenant Governor's office regarding the seafood? Because you know that they will donate, provide a lot of seafood and so forth. Plus, you know, they're on this video kick where they're going around advertising the staycations and so forth via videos to highlight our area. So I just want to make sure that Lieutenant Governor Nungesser's office is aware of that.
Let me speak to that. Yes, I mean, I was going to have that as part of this packet. Michelle and I had some problems downloading the email that was sent to me from the organizers. It was so voluminous we couldn't print it all out. But hopefully by Thursday we'll have it printed out. And yes, she is in conversation with Nungesser's office.
You done, Commissioner Talaferro?
Oh, thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Commissioner Cawthorn, are they taking applications for food judges? I'm just kidding. Food looks amazing.
True.
Looking forward to this.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, President.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
Commissioner Burrell?
And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That moves us to 8.7, which is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6089 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation to the Multicultural Center of the South and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Skip one.
69.
I'm
Skip
sorry.
69.
Wait,
No, it's just they're backwards on the agenda.
8.
They're flipped.
7.
Oh, yeah.
So 90 comes and then 89. He's doing it in order, but they're
Oh, you
flipped.
got it. Got it.
Oh, they just, I'm sorry, yeah, they got, somehow they got reversed on their monitor. But
Okay.
I'm reading from the agenda, it's
All right.
correct there.
But I'll motion to move 89 to Thursday, President.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Chavez, seconded by Commissioner Jackson to advance ordinance 6089 of 2021 to our regular session meeting. Commissioner Chavez, you want to speak to this particular ordinance?
Thank you, President. Commissioners, we met with the Multicultural Center a week and a half ago, and they have this really cool idea where they want to showcase, from what they can see through their studies, it's 16 local different heritages that are in Caddo Parish, and they want to do a festival at the Caddo Common Park, which you all know that we sponsored. They want to showcase the park as well as celebrate the 16 different cultures that are represented throughout Caddo Parish. So I thought it was a really cool idea. It was a very small ask. They said they wanted to appropriate at least $1,000 per culture for the award and to help put this on. So I thought this would be a very good use of our tax dollars to do economic development here locally. Thank you, President.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Chavez, will they have an economic impact study done by Thursday?
I'll request that.
Okay. For me to vote yes on it, I want to see an economic impact.
I understand.
study. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
I'd like to be added as a sponsor of this. Is this the one that you would?
That's the one, yes, sir.
Okay, add me as a sponsor, Jeff. And this will lay over for 2 weeks, so we've got time to get the reports. Jeff, was this the meeting you was at too?
What's that?
Is
Yeah.
this the meeting you was
Yes,
at too?
it
Okay,
is.
so yeah, they've got time, they've got 2 weeks to get whatever report or whatnot. The Multicultural Center is in my district, and they've always done sort of a cultural fest. I think they normally will do it in their building, but the fact that they're going to collaborate with Shreveport Regional Arts Council in Caddo Comet Park to get people outside and, you know, to highlight the diversity within our community as well, because a lot of folks resonate with these, a lot of folks in our community resonate with these nationalities. So I think it's going to be great, particularly in the park. I know I have been adamant about not making sure that they fund program things in their park, but this is something that Mrs. Gatlin and her team at the Multicultural Center, they actually put it on every year. I don't think they did it last year, obviously, but this is the first time I believe they've asked us to step up to help support, and hopefully we'll look forward to being a partner with this on the annual occasion. And it's very, very well attended, particularly by individuals in our medical community. And so I think it's a great event, and looking forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Mr. Carter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I want to add a little context to this, which is why my name was added to it. The Multicultural Center of the South has historically done their festival out at Diamond Jack, and they didn't do it last year because of COVID. But I started having a conversation with the executive director of the Multicultural Arts Center of the South, Janice Gatlin, back in May. And subsequent to that, we did almost like a pilot program June 12th that was youth-based, where we only did 3 cultures, African American, Hispanic, and Asian culture. And it was always our intent to broaden it. And we were able to have a series of students out, kids out, learning about different cultures. We had a panel discussion about how these cultures can coexist here in Shreveport, Louisiana in a more dynamic fashion, if you will. And so this is an excellent idea. When I saw that Commissioner Chavez had put it on the agenda, I guess that was just like communication, how we brought it all together, because Pam Atchison was at the pilot program we did June 12th. So I'm glad to see all this come together, and I'm very supportive of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Durrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would want to be added to this, partly because I was one of the founding members of the Multicultural Center of the South, and I supported it when I was a state representative down at the state each year for them to maintain their funding, which at various times while I was there during the 12 years came into jeopardy for political reasons. But it is a very viable organization. I'm glad to see that it's still around, and I think it's very important that we celebrate our cultures in this area. I thought it was more than 17 from what I remember during the days I was there on the board, to up to 27. But maybe we've lost some cultures since then. I don't know. But anyway, I would like to be added, and I support this.
Commissioner Hopkins.
I was just saying that I believe they made a mistake. I know quite a number of us Germans that are in Caddo Parish.
Well, you included.
What tends to happen, Commissioner Hopkins, y'all get all lumped into one category.
Oh, is that what it is,
so
redneck?
We need to do a drill down on that.
Okay, thank you.
Or just add an additional context.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just be interested in, I see the 16 cultures and $20,000 asking. I would like to know, you know, how the money's going to be distributed, what's going to be distributed for, how we're going to best use it to promote this multicultural, which is quite astounding here. I know that we're a melting pot, and this sure definitely is a melting pot. I'd just like to see how the money's going to be distributed in the future. That's all. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Commissioner Chavez.
Thanks, President. I know it's the second time I speak, but I can touch on that really quick. They anticipate 16 entities coming out, possibly now 17 because we're going to add German. But it's 1,000 per heritage is what they were looking at just a rough expense because they don't know German food versus Mexican food versus whatnot. on the food cost, the setup, and what they were looking at was the allocation of roughly $1,000 per heritage to set up the booth and identify everything. And then the remaining $4, they're looking at doing some marketing and, of course, plasticware and whatnot for the citizens. So to have 16 different booths and a little bit of marketing for $4,000, I thought that was a very small ask, and I was grateful for that. So I'll wholeheartedly say absolutely. Thank you, President.
No problem. Seeing no one else, let's vote.
Commissioner Burrell?
Mine's not.
I got yes, I got yes on there. It's not taken.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support and none in opposition, 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item. And again, sorry if you're looking at the one on the monitor, those may have gotten inverted. But the next item is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6090 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation for COVID-19 vaccination campaign and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to advance ordinance number 6090 of 2021. It's been moved by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Carthon. I think this one is well self-explanatory. We need to have some type of vaccination campaign for our citizens in Caddo Parish. Our numbers are low, and maybe we can get a message out that they can hear and go out and get the vaccination to help increase our numbers so that we won't have many cases that we have. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I'll be supporting this, but I'll also like to let the body know that we'll be discussing this in our pandemic meeting as well, because I think we're going to need a more comprehensive plan. People know that they need to get the vaccine. There's a lot of vaccine commercials and advertising that are out there right now, but we need a more robust and comprehensive plan with regard to vaccine administration, vaccine utilization, literacy, and cultural acceptance as well. Again, people know that they need to get it, but I think people are hesitant. There's a reticence to getting it, and we have to be very strategic. What we saw last year when we were doing testing is that, what we initially did was threw some commercials up on TV encouraging people to get tested, and that didn't go over too well. It looked nice, but once we hit the ground, put boots on the ground, and really start educating people about the importance of testing, that was one of the things that came with the neighborhood testing that we did. And so I'm going to look forward to having a conversation in our pandemic committee or task force, whatever we want to call it, about how we're going to have a robust vaccination push. There's also going to be some support from the state that's going to come in to help do some things that's going to push, and particularly around cultural acceptance of the vaccination as well. So we have a huge hurdle to overcome when it comes to vaccine acceptance, literacy, and things of that nature. Unfortunately, we did not get the grant from Health and Human Services, and I had a chance to talk to Mr. Roscoe. I can't think of his last name, but his first name is Roscoe. And they were concerned about Caddo Parish's ability to execute with regard to the grant that they put out. That's neither here nor there. We have to do what we can at the local level to push, to put boots on the ground and get folks ready to get this, because we can be in this place for a long time, and I think folks are ready to get back to normalcy. But what we're seeing now with the fourth wave, if we don't do something serious and if we don't get folks vaccinated who need to be vaccinated, and it's not to force vaccinations on anybody, but it's a real reality. You can't go to a college in the state of Louisiana without having a meningitis vaccination. So vaccinations have been here forever. They're not going anywhere. We have to do our part to make sure we're educating the public in an effective and culturally sound way. What I would ask administration, I see y'all's name on here, I'd ask that whatever marketing plan that's put together, that is brought before the commission as well as the pandemic committee, because we do have public health experts at that committee. Whatever we do before we go forward and sign any marketing plans, that we have a discussion as a commission about what that plan looks like, because we know just putting commercials out, that's not acceptable, or that's not accepted from the folks that we set it out to. A lot of people just gonna say they didn't see it. So I don't know the details of what's in this plan right now. I think it's good that we're doing it, but I would like to see how is that gonna be implemented and executed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Storm Gage White.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree that we need to do more in educating the public. There's a lot of misinformation out there, as it's already been stated, and I also would like to be a co-sponsor on this legislation. Got that, Mr. Clerk?
I do. I have that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Epperson.
Testing should still be in order also, isn't it? Isn't it good to have testing? I say testing is just falling off, but there are people that are contacting the variant and it's asymptomatic. So testing should be on the table also.
Right. It's all part of the campaign. Is it, Commissioner Epperson? Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Hopkins.
You know, I've supported all the testing and things like that last year and this year. I have a problem with the campaign. I mean, every time you turn on the TV, you hear about it. Every time you turn on the radio, you hear about getting vaccinated. Go do it, do this. We got our state government giving $1 million away for people to go get vaccinated. I just think, you know, the people that want the vaccination pretty much have gotten it, and the ones that don't are not going to get it. And I just think we're stepping out there, maybe throwing some money at the wall and not getting much. Thank you.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I concur with Commissioner Hopkins. I think there's plenty of information out there. Either you take it or you don't. Either you get the vaccination or you don't. Either you get tested or you don't. I think that we are, I don't say we're burdened, but I know that we're inundated with information about COVID, about the variant, and about testing. So I'm just wondering again, you know, if this is a wise use for our American Rescue Plan money. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hear what Commissioner Hopkins and Commissioner Talaferro are saying, and they raised some legitimate points. However, I'm not at the point where I think it's time to give up on educating and advocating. I'd much rather see us continue to work on education and advocacy as opposed to mandates. So I'm prepared to continue to spend some money on education and education and advocating, but I'm not prepared to go into mandates. Of course, that's later in the agenda. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we have had a testing program, human testing program. I guess my question would be, you know, how effective has that been? Because as you know, coming up later too, LSU requested some money for testing, but we're doing wastewater testing rather than human testing, where it appears that their human testing has not resulted in the results that they are looking for. I haven't heard or any report has been given on the effectiveness of it. I'm thinking that that's part of the reason why they recommended to go to wastewater testing, where it would isolate the areas in which you may have a high source of COVID through waste, you know, through their wastewater. So that's one of the reasons why I supported the wastewater concept rather than just the human testing concept. I have not heard the effectiveness of it. And I was asking the question, how effective has that been, or should we get somebody here to tell us? Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, if I may, I just would.
Stormy Gates Watch, Commissioner Gates Watch will be answering that question. She is in that profession.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to answer that there were about 100,000 tests provided in North Louisiana, and they were very effective. Anyone can still get tested at any of your local Walgreens, CVS. It's simple to go to your app on your cell phones if you still need to get testing. Testing is still being widely operated in North Louisiana. It's still very necessary.
But that's on a volunteer basis, isn't it?
Absolutely.
They're not
It's
going
not
in
mandatory.
just testing areas.
Right.
At one time, I understood that we had a mobile testing unit that was going into areas to test.
Right.
But
we
it's
did.
still voluntary, is what you're saying.
Right, but you still have that opportunity, even if you don't have any symptoms and you want to know, you still can go get tested.
Well, again, I think the wastewater concept or protocol here may be more effective because you don't have to ask anybody anything. You can test the wastewater in that area to see how effective, I mean, the concentration of COVID that's in there that actually passed through that waste. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jackson, Secretary.
Yeah, I'd just like to note as well that David Raines Community Health Centers, MLK Clinic, they also doing testing. One of the things that I think that we, and when I say we, I mean collectively, I'm not talking about anybody up here, I'm talking about just in general, the public in general, that we stopped doing when the vaccine became available. People, Commissioner Burrell, stopped searching for the test. They only went and started searching for the vaccine. And so what eventually happened was the low numbers that we have seen for the last 3 to 4 months have not been an accurate picture of what's been out there. The reality is COVID-19 never went anywhere. In fact, it got worse. It got worse. But what happened was testing dropped way off because people were searching for the vaccine. And it's unfortunate. And so I do agree with the comments that have been made, is that anywhere you turn, there's a conversation that's being had about, and there's some advertising about vaccinations. I don't know that those advertisements are culturally sound. I don't know that they resonate on the street level. And so hopefully what we can do, Commissioner Epperson, is encourage that testing to be done, because if you don't know it's out there, people will walk around, at some of these, I'll just throw it out there, at the Bayou Classic game, at the Juneteenth festivals, at Mudbuck Madness, we're walking around with COVID-19 and we're spreading it. And so we've got to get back. I'm not saying we should go back into lockdown mode. I'm not saying we should take some of the extreme measures, because some of the most extreme measures were done because we didn't have the vaccine. And I think what a lot of people thought was, well, the vaccine is here, we're good, and that's just not the case. So those numbers that we have seen have been because people have not gone, and their conditions were not as bad, so they didn't go get tested. Now people are showing up in the worst conditions. And it's unfortunate because now, and just remember, I don't know if Dr. White, I may have missed her, but just remember, deaths will always lag behind. So the number of deaths are gonna go up. That's just the reality of how these numbers work, Storm. That's just how it works. The deaths are going to go up. It starts with hospitalizations first, and then, unfortunately, the morbidity comes at that point. So we just have to be mindful of that. So we're going to start seeing all of these numbers. The positivity rate is going up, hospitalization numbers are going to go up, and deaths are always sort of a week or two lagging behind. So let's just be mindful of that as we go forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Burrell.
Just as a final note, Mr. Chairman, I got a disturbing call this morning, and I guess I sat there and argued for probably 30 minutes to someone who felt that Dr. White had put out some information that nobody was getting COVID after getting vaccination. I tried to explain to them that the efficacy, how do you pronounce that? Efficacy of the vaccine has been put out, saying that from 94 to 98%. And most people who are catching COVID now are those that are not vaccinated. I think that figure is up to 99%. And I sat there 30 minutes trying to convince this person, if it's 3 out of, say, 9 out of 1,000, at least you 9 may wind up being sick or dead after getting a shot. But what about the other 991 that is not getting it? It's just so much misinformation out there still. I thought it was not, but a call this morning really let me know that you got so much misinformation that's still out there in the public on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing no one else, let's vote. And it's order 6090.
All right, and that item advances with attendance support, 1 in opposition and 1 absent. And brings us to our next item, which is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6091 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the E. Edward Jones Trust Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation for an emergency eviction mitigation program and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. Now, on this item, do you want me to?
No, go right ahead, Jeff.
Okay, this item, after we published the agenda, but before we advertised in the paper, we were made aware that this item actually is intended to be an emergency item, so it was advertised as an emergency ordinance, but it did not make the agenda as that. So it would be in order to, a motion from the floor to change the title would be in order if that's the desire.
Okay, so at this time, I'll make a motion to amend this to be an emergency ordinance. That's all I'm exerting in here is emergency, the word emergency. Okay, so at that time, I'll make a motion to make it just emergency ordinance at this particular time.
It's been moved by Commissioner Jackson to introduce ordinance 6091 as an emergency ordinance and been seconded by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Commissioner Jackson, you want to speak to that motion?
Yes, thank you. This was originally a part of the proposal that was put in place. Let me tell you that the funds that this would come out of would be the funds that the state of Louisiana already has set aside. I want to say that number is it 11 or 13 million? Or is it 8? Oh, so there's $14 million. Is that correct? 14 million. So there's $14 million at the state right now to provide Caddo specific emergency rental assistance. Treasury requires, or they allow for up to 15% to be used for emergency wraparound, case management, those kind of things. Commissioners, what we're seeing is, as administration, and that we've done a great job. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Haley. Thank you to the team for moving these things through the process. But what we're still seeing is, as applicants move through the process and as that waiting period takes place, the eviction process is still going forward. And so you may have somebody who has a check on the way. A landlord could have a check on the way, almost cut, but they're still going through that eviction process because it's just a time issue, and you know, they don't know that the check is being cut. So our goal is to put this in place, work with the, I believe it's the Jesse Stone Legal Society, to be able to be court advocates. Basically, they would be court advocates. They're not going to ask for the evictions to be tossed out. All they do is they ask for it to be continued in order for their check to be cut or for their application to be properly vetted. So just wanted to give some context. New Orleans is doing this. Baton Rouge is doing this. I learned last week that Lafayette is doing it as well. They're acting as court advocates. Again, they're not asking for the cases to be dismissed. They're simply asking those judges or those justices of the peace to continue them in order to get everybody through that process. So that's why we have this here. And again, this is not money that we're going to be at a loss for. It's going to be a part of that $14 million that the state is holding for rental assistance for Caddo Parish. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may address this question to the author, Commissioner Jackson. As I understand it, this is more or less a kind of bridge funding to help facilitate the timeline that it takes. So we're just making sure that the landlord gets his rent payment before he evicts someone who's in the process. So I understand that, and I think that this is a good solution. And I also note that it comes from the Edward Jones Trust Fund, which was set up largely to prevent homelessness and help with housing and that type of stuff. So it has an application there as well. So
That's a question or this?
well, that was more of a statement, I guess. I was asking for if my assessment situation was correct.
Questions?
Pardon?
He asked the question to the author.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm making sure I got the floor. Yes, and you bring up a good point that I omitted, because if the landlord evicts that person, if I'm correct, they're out.
Right.
So they don't even get their payment. And I don't think landlords realize that it's if they evict, that money that they're waiting on, they don't get. So it's in their best interest.
All their past due rent.
Right. Everything is gone. So it's in their best interest to try to work with the program and to just there's a gap in between the process, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the way the thing is set up, and it's nobody's fault, because what's happening, Commissioner Atkins, is the judge has continued it for 30 days, and now that 30 days is up, and so now it's back on the docket. And so, it's either do or die at that point, and we hope that we just can get some delay on the continuance while they get their check cut.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. A quick question for you, Mr. President. What's the significance of making it an emergency versus just a
It doesn't lay over 2 weeks. We'll vote on it Thursday.
Okay. Thank you.
And I want to make sure that everyone knows that the motion that we should be talking about is just making this an emergency ordinance. Then we have to come back and then make a motion to take it as an emergency ordinance and move it to Thursday. So just want to make sure that
Thank you.
everybody understands that. So if you're on the board and you're talking about making it into the emergency ordinance, you can stay on the board. If not, I can take you off and then talk about it when we move it to Thursday. So are y'all good on that? Okay, so next is Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. Chairman, I had gotten a call from a constituent that had been a part of the cattle rental program, that I understand that they found out that they had put all their information in, and it was in review about 2 weeks before they announced that it had no more money. So now they are afraid that they're going to get thrown out, because there was an extended moratorium from June to July. July is almost over with, and it appears that there's no more money in the kitty. Does this somehow have any effect on that, or are we looking to get some more money in the cattle rental program, or we're just out?
That's to me.
Whoever.
Okay.
Want to
Ms.
answer?
Barnett, can you answer that? Because I was going to tag in a little later on, but can you answer that now?
Yes, sir. So Commissioner Burrell, there is more opportunity for funds. As you know, the Caddo Parish received direct appropriation from the Treasury of over $10 million, and we've spent all of that. We have allocated all of that. All of that money is out the door. So as Commissioner Jackson mentioned earlier, the state received about $14 million that has to be spent in Caddo Parish. So we're working out an agreement now for them to forward us us that money so that we can use it to help our citizens here in Caddo Parish.
So it'll go through the Caddo rental program then?
Yes, sir.
Because
The
if
rental
not,
program will remain the same, but right now we've had to hit pause until that agreement is signed, sealed, and delivered. And as soon as that happens, we'll start flowing through monies again. But we're just waiting on the state to agree to the contract that legal has sent.
well, do you have any timeline? Because if the landlord is not gonna wait, they're gonna evict them if you know, if they don't pay the back rent.
I do know that the state is aware that we're out of money. We're in constant communication with them, and they know that time is of the essence, and so they're speeding it along as fast as they can, but
Commissioner Burrell,
And if you have the person's name, and if you let Haley know who that is, she can let you know the status of their situation.
Well, I know the status of the situation. I called and checked because they brought it to me, and I did check, but they gave them until the end of July, and the end of July is close, and only to find out that there was no more money. They found that out yesterday, that Caddo did not have any more money, although their application, they had sent in all their application. It was under review, and they never told them that there was no more money. They only found out yesterday that there was no more money in the Caddo kitty.
Hey, Commissioner Burrell, we had a discussion with the state on Monday morning. It's the Community Development Office, and we alerted them to this fact. We've been talking to them prior to it, but we had a subsequent meeting on Monday to work out the final details and also to express our concern that we didn't want to front-end load a program that's already funded by the Treasury to the state. So in other words, what I'm telling you, they wanted us to do it on a cost reimbursement basis, and we kind of did not like that idea because they already have the money. So the state told us that there was some state statute that prohibited them from giving us an advance. So we finally come to some equitable terms on how we can make the program work. And we did express our desire to be expedient with it on behalf of our citizens.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but it appears that you're gonna get some money at some point.
Yes, sir. We told them the sooner the better, but they couldn't guarantee us a time. So, but we worked expeditiously through the contractual part of it, so there shouldn't be no delay. They had to do a test audit on what we have done so far. So we already sent that data. So we're moving right along as fast as we can to get the process re-engaged.
Well, let me ask you, what can I tell the constituent then? Because that's what's important.
Fast as we can.
Okay. I didn't hear your question, sir.
I say, what can I tell the constituents? Because that's what's important, because they expect an answer.
Hopefully, once the contract's signed, Donna, you have any idea when that will take place?
I don't. We
Okay.
sent it back, so.
Okay, the ball's in the state's court with regards to the contract, and as soon as
Good
they
luck
can
on
get,
that one.
as soon as they can get that out, I wish I could speak for them, but I can't do that. But I'm impressing upon them the urgency of it. So as soon as we get an update on that, I will convey that to you all.
And keep in mind that even after we get the agreement signed, we have to send information. We have to send information to the state before they send us those funds.
Right.
So that still would be delayed. So your constituent, we're working on it and we're trying to get it done as fast as we can. And just as soon as we get it done, we'll continue to process the applications. But we will have to wait on the state not only to sign the agreement, but also to send the funds in order to send the payments to the landlords or the renters.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And without throwing anybody under the bus, the state, they take a little bit longer than most would like. So we did express the desire to move fast as we can, but that's the only thing we can do. We can just try to light a fire under them to move fast. But,
So tell the constituent that's in the state hand and they don't know, well, I'm not sure what they can go back and tell the landlord, but
yes, sir.
But they are concerned about being
Yeah, hopefully they'll move
turned
out
down.
right away because there will be no point of sitting on the money that they have for for the citizens of the parish of Caddo.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Dr. Wilson, do you think by Thursday, when we vote on this emergency ordinance, that you'll be, I guess, farther along in getting an answer? Do you think you guys can reach out to the state before Thursday?
We reach out to them daily, so
Yes.
if we have an
Okay.
update, we will let you know. by Thursday.
I guess my question is on the average rent in Shreveport's about $800. This is 20,000. That'll allocate 25 people or 25 doors. Average landlord may have 25 to 50 doors. Any reason behind just having 20,000? Is there more in the E. Edwards Trust Fund that we can utilize to get the landlords compensated and made whole, and allow the renters to stay, and then we can reimburse the E. Edwards Trust Fund as the money comes in from the state?
Let's do that, though.
Well, again, we above what we supposed to be talking about on the motion. The motion is just making it emergency, and then we'll talk about what y'all talking about as we go to move it to Thursday.
I got you. I'll yield till Thursday then for these questions.
Well, I mean, you can talk about it once we make the next motion. This motion was just to make it an emergency ordinance. Okay.
I'll yield for a moment.
Okay. Commissioner Talaferro.
Well, since I'm already on the board, then I'm in favor of making this an emergency.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
President.
Jackson.
Yes, no, so that's the point of doing this emergency ordinance. Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Chavez, that's the point of making this an emergency ordinance. And I just want to be clear that the dollars, if you recall, there was always $1 million in the year. This 20,000 would basically come from that million that was already set there, and it would basically act as sort of a placeholder while the state is getting their contract. Trust me, the state understands the urgency of what is taking place. They know, they're aware of it. So hopefully a contract will be signed pretty quick. But that's the point of this being an emergency ordinance to be done. And I want to clear up what was something that was said. We're not out of money. We have money. It's just that the direct allocation has been spent. So that's why this emergency ordinance is it's being placed on here as an emergency ordinance and not a regular one at this time.
Seeing no one else's vote on the substitute motion of making this an emergency ordinance.
I guess that was an amendment to make it an emergency ordinance.
That motion passes with 11 in support and none in opposition.
Now we need a motion to advance it as it has been amended.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Stormy Gage White, seconded by Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Stormy Gage White, do you want to speak to your motion?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
I don't see nobody on the board because the board is out. Anybody on the board, raise your hand. I'll recognize you till they get the board right. Seeing nobody on the board, let's vote.
And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent.
Okay.
And
Next
that
item.
that brings us to the next item, which is to authorize introduction of ordinance number 6092 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation for the Shady Grove Missionary Baptist Church tutoring program and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So move.
Second.
The move by Commissioner Carthon, seconded by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Commissioner Carthon, you speak to your motion.
Yeah, very briefly, Pastor Carroll was here this morning speaking to this program. Shady Grove has done a yeoman's job in providing excellent service in their tutoring program. Even during COVID, they went virtual because of the social distancing perspective they had to adhere to. So what they find themselves in is just a little revenue gap for the continuity of this program, which is an additional $6,000. So I'm encouraging us to grant them this $6,000 in addition to what they received in 2021. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, as I understand it, this $6,000 is just to alleviate the shortfall that they've experienced during COVID.
Yes, trying to get them over the hump.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no one from Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, do we know if the school board is participating in this?
School board.
I'm sorry, that's a question to the author. I apologize. Did I hear something about an after-school program?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was asking, they receive funds to are they partnering with them on this, or this is just?
I don't think they're partnering with the school board. They've had a program with us for a few years, and they've done a great job with it. Whether or not they're partnering with the school board, I'm not aware.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. In regards to the additional, what was the original? That's my question.
What was the
original
amount?
This is in addition to how much was originally appropriated.
For 2020?
It's for 2021, I believe. Yes, for
Or
2021.
10. The last couple of years they received
Okay.
16.
Got it. Thank you, President.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
Commissioner Atkins.
All right, that item advances with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item, which is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6093 of 2021. That's an emergency ordinance mandating masks or facial covering in certain establishments and public places to provide penalties for the violation of same and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to advance.
Second.
Been moved by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Cawthorn and Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. I heard both of them at the same time. I'm introducing this emergency ordinance due to the fact, and I wish that Dr. White was here, but she couldn't be here. She will be here Thursday, so I'm asking you to at least advance it to Thursday. And if you feel that you need to vote it down on Thursday, after you hear Dr. White's comments and numbers about the latest COVID-19 numbers and how the Delta variant is doing, then you can do so. But I do believe that as elected officials, sometimes we have to take a stance that our constituents sometimes won't like. A lot of our citizens look to us for solutions and something that can help them out in their situation. With the spike in the numbers and basically saying that it's optional to wear masks, our numbers have gone up. And not only with the targeted area that it had been going to was most of the seniors and people with underlying conditions, but now it's also affecting our youth. And you know that our youth is our next generation that will be sitting around this horseshoe. So I felt that if we didn't do anything at all, then we would just be status quo and, not really caring about the health of our citizens in Caddo Parish. This is also to help generate talk about things that we might want to change in the ordinance itself. But I wanted to put something out there that would give us a good template and that we can look at, vote on, and try to move forward to. This does not affect inside the city limits of Shreveport. And what I want to do is, if we were to pass this, then to try to talk the city council into doing the same thing on the city as well. But we have to do something as elected officials. We just can't stand by and say, well, we can't do anything, but we can, and that's mandating masks to wear. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm supportive of taking positive action with respect to the coronavirus, but I think that we should take action in the form of education and advocating for vaccinations. I've supported that previously on the agenda, but I'm opposed to mask mandates. I'm opposed to just about any type of mandate. I think our citizens are wise enough to make their own decisions regarding their personal health care, so I won't be able to support the mandate. Thank you, Mr. President.
No problem. Commissioner Burrell.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do too have a concern about mandating something in which, in my opinion, something probably should be mandated because some of us just will not take reality as reality. Just like the call that I got this morning, that's really frightening because of all the conspiracy stuff that's out there. I try to explain to them, being a public official, sometimes you have to take a position based upon the research that you find, along with, taking in information from others, because you're not just protecting yourself. You can't be so selfish. You're supposed to be protecting others. You may have the right to die from this yourself, but you don't have the right to give it to others to die. That would, or either cause them to be hospitalized. The last thing I would say, that if Dr. White comes in, the conversation that I had this morning was centered around a comment that she was supposed to have made, and if you look at your email, a person sent an email out because they understood her to say that no one has gotten, no one has died from COVID after they had gotten vaccinated. I don't believe that myself. I don't have all the relative facts to say that, but make sure that she's clear. And I doubt if a professional like Dr. White would say something like that, when I've heard on a national basis that there have been people that has died, not necessarily from after taking the shots, but the fact that there are breakthroughs, and they may have had other underlying conditions that may have caused their death. They haven't finalized that yet. But there are those people who are picking up on words. And if Dr. White said that at the council meeting, then I would have her to rethink it before she comes here, because I don't believe that there are people personally, based on any information that I've gotten, that may not have died after taking the COVID shot, but it may not be due to the COVID shot. That's the other indication. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I just had a question on the enforcement. I didn't know if the sheriff or the district judges within the parish had been, I guess, consulted on this and how they would react, or.
Well, typically what they did last time is if a business owner asked a patron to put on a mask and they didn't, they basically were at that point trespassing, and that's what they charged them with.
I got you. Okay. Thank you, President. That's all.
Right. Commissioner Hopkins.
As a survivor, a COVID survivor, someone who spent 18 days on a ventilator, I understand the disease or virus or whatever you want to call it is real. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with anybody that wants to wear a mask. Don't have a problem with anybody that gets vaccinated. That's their choice, and that's where I believe it should be left. I'm just not for mandating, telling people they have to wear it, and then fining them. I don't think it's the government's job. So I don't support this ordinance at this time. I'll never support this type of ordinance. Thank you.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Greenwood, Blanchard, Vivian, Oil City, Ida, Rodessa, Halston, Dixie, Gillum, Belcher, Mooringsport, and the city of Shreveport are all excluded in this mandate.
I think some of them will be included because all of them don't have a form of government.
It excludes more people in Caddo Parish than it includes. This ordinance affects rural Caddo, particularly Keithville, my district. And it primarily is going to affect these churches. Every email that I received was against this. And nothing prevents these citizens from wearing a mask if they choose to. But please don't force them to do it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Cartel.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's always challenging in the 21st century in America when you use the word mandate, even if we use strongly encouraged. But if we learn from history, there are times and spaces in America where we have to step back for a minute and look at our fellow citizen. We ask you to wear a mask so that you don't spread COVID to someone else as a mechanism, as an abundance of caution. In 1918 with the Spanish influenza, when it broke out, that was a mass mandate all across the United States. Now, has America changed since then in terms of its thought processes? Maybe, maybe not. But I think what we need to draw from this is a mechanism for an abundance of caution, and it won't last forever. This is a temporary fix. So as we get through something that we haven't been through in 100 years, so we provide safety to our fellow citizens. So I just encourage you to look at it that way, and so that we can eventually get past COVID in Caddo Parish and in America. Thanks.
Commissioner Gage-Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, I am in support of this mandate. I know that it may not be popular for a lot of us, and we talk about the things that we do not support and the reasons why we don't support them, but this is a public health safety, as well as it is if someone was to go into any of our local stores, you are required to wear a shirt and shoes, even at restaurants. It's a requirement, and that is so that we can remain safe in that environment. At this time, we still face a lot of unknowns. We don't know everything that there is to know about this disease, but we do know that the masks work. We do know that it prevents this virus from spreading to others. As numbers are rapidly rising around the country, there are many other counties and parishes alike that are taking a stance to save our citizens. We know that over 500,000 people have lost their lives to COVID-19, one of which was my brother, who lost his life and who did practice every safety protocols, but those around him didn't. So everyone doesn't get a second chance and say that they survived a ventilator. There are a lot of survivors who are left here, which survivor remorse, I should say. So I think that as elected officials, as legislators, we do have to take a stance at some point, and we all should vote our conviction, but we should also think about what we are saying to the public when we can do something to save lives. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. You know, I'm conflicted here today because we spent 2 months haggling over whether we even needed a pandemic committee, KTAL. I was live at 5 because I questioned this body. What the hell were we doing? I won't be here on Thursday. I already had a Louisiana Housing Corporation Board of Directors meeting. I'll be in Baton Rouge on Thursday and Friday. So I'm getting that out because I don't want anybody to say that I was conveniently absent. I won't be here on Thursday. But months ago, we were cautioned that we would have flare-ups, and this could be seasonal, that we have to go through these processes. And for whatever reason, that was met with resistance, it was met with skepticism, it was met with downright just ugliness at times. I'm gonna support to introduce this, and I'm gonna encourage everybody on this body to always stand on a principle and not personality and not politics. If I was here on Thursday, I would vote to approve this. because the reality is, Commissioner Epperson, COVID-19 never went anywhere. We got 2 good weeks of snow that set everybody down, and that dropped our numbers. As soon as the snow thawed out, the vaccine was readily available, and folks stopped getting tested. They started going to get the vaccine. COVID-19 never went anywhere. The numbers have always been artificial. From February to now, it's catching up with us is what's happening. And we should always be taking these matters of public health serious. Public health is not something sexy. It's not something that's always in the limelight, but it should always be taken serious. And the reason why I take it serious is because I work in it every day, and I know who's going to be affected by public health. When it's a public health crisis, the people who live in the worst conditions, and I represent a lot of them, they're going to be in the worst conditions because they have lack of access to the medical professionals. They have lack of access to the treatment. They have lack of access, or they have an inability to be able to social distance. This is something that I think we could have gotten ahead of, and I wish we would have gotten ahead of it. I just want to encourage everybody, let's be about principle going forward. Let's be about principle, Doc. It's the principle of the matter. Because we know that we're gonna have seasonal flare-ups, and I use the word, Jim, prepared. It's the word that I gave you. It was a preparedness issue. We got to be prepared. That way we don't have to take some of these extreme measures. We don't have to, nobody likes a mandate. Nobody likes that. The mandates and the shutdowns were in place because we didn't have a vaccine. And the only way to blunt the curve is tell everybody to put a mask on and go sit down. If it weren't for that 2-week winter storm period, we would have never got those numbers down. Let's just be real about it. We've got to always come down here and be about a principle. Be about the principle. So I hope that we find it in our convictions to do the right thing all the time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
Okay, and that motion
Pass to advance.
advances with 6.
Yeah.
And it's support, 5 in opposition. I'm sorry, I was having trouble counting the opposition. The 6 in support, 5 in opposition, and 1 absent. So that advances to Thursday. And the next item is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6094 of 2021, an ordinance to close and abandon a portion of the dedication for Lee Boulevard and Linwood Park home sites, unit number 4 in the parish of Caddo, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to advance to Thursday.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Atkins and second by Commissioner Chavez to advance ordinance 6094 of 2021. Commissioner Atkins, you want to speak to that motion?
Just briefly, I'll say, Mr. Chairman, that Public Works spoke to me about this issue. It's a dedication that's not in use and could be utilized by a citizen in the area, and they recommended that we approve the abandonment.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I moved to global 6094 and 6095 at this time.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Jackson to global and advance 6094 and 6095 of 2021. Commissioner Jackson, want to speak to that
No.
motion?
No, sir.
All right. Seeing no one on the board, let's vote.
And that advances with 10 in support and 2 absent. The next item, so that was 6094 and 6095. And the next item is authorizing introduction of ordinance number 6096 of 2021.
Move to remove from the agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Jackson to remove and seconded by Commissioner Cardon, ordinance number 6096. Commissioner Jackson, want to speak to that
Yes,
motion?
if Dr. Wilson, if something comes on this agenda from District 3, before it hits this agenda, the commissioner who represents that area would appreciate a conversation before it hits the agenda. I don't know what this is. I don't know where this is. One of these look like it's almost in my backyard. Not gonna do it, and I know I've said that at least, how long have I been down here, 6 years, 5 years? I know I've said it 5 times.
Okay.
When are we gonna get this one right?
Stand to be corrected, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no one else on the board, let's vote.
Okay, and that motion passes with 11 in support and none in opposition, 1 absent, and to remove ordinance number 6096. The next item is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6097 of 2021, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6073 of 2021, setting the general purpose and special purpose millages and levying and imposing taxes and assessments for the 2021 on property subject to taxation in the parish of Caddo to correct the amount set for public health facilities millages and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to advance.
Been moved by Commissioner Atkins, seconded by the chair to advance ordinance 6097 of 2021. Commissioner Atkins, you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, sir. There was a mistake made in the original levy, and this is an attempt to correct that mistake. It actually brings the millage down, so it's good for the citizens. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Evers.
Will the gentleman be present on Thursday to speak reference to this wastewater? Wasn't he supposed to be here today?
We're not on that one yet. We're on the
I'm
one
sorry.
right before it, 97.
Yeah, okay.
Seeing no one else, let's vote on ordinance number 6097.
And that motion carries with 10 in support and 1 abstention and 1 absence. Let's see. That brings us to, I'm sorry. That brings us to the wastewater one, which is the authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6098 of 2021. And that's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund to provide an appropriation of $50,000 for a wastewater program for COVID-19 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. I did hear Commissioner Epperson asked a moment ago, and at the beginning of the meeting, we mentioned that both Dr. White and Dr. Murnane were not available today, but they would be here on Thursday. Dr. Murnane is the gentleman who was on the agenda to speak to this item. Also, you know, you had initially introduced an ordinance that had the amount of $25,000. Then that one was tabled, and this is being introduced because Commissioner Burrell wanted to increase the amount, and the amount had already been advertised at $25,000. But I say that to remind y'all, should this advance, you know, that other item is still out there if that, you know, if that is an option to y'all as well.
Motion to advance, Mr. Chair.
Second.
2 seconds. Been moved by Commissioner Burrell, seconded by Commissioner Jackson to advance ordinance 6098 of 2021. Commissioner Burrell, do you want to speak to your motion?
I'll just reiterate basically what was said earlier. You know, although we I understand that there was some effectiveness in terms of human testing, but this is a new technology and well, a new method using new and different technology that has been proven in other places to be more effective because you don't have to engage, people in order to get tested, which can be very, very difficult, as you can tell, regardless of whether people have their certain political philosophies or they just have just personal views. If we're able to test the wastewater in the area that they're in, and they're able to come up statistically with better data, then I think we're on the right track, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Burrell, I'm excited to see this project. I won't be here to see the presentation, but we did get a presentation at the pandemic committee from the professor that's working on this. But I think this is going to be a very exciting project and worthwhile investment for Caddo Parish. So thank you, and please thank the med school for doing this for us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. My inquiry is, have we heard from the city of Shreveport on the match? Are they on board? I guess that question would be to Commissioner Burrell. Do you know that?
Well, no, I have not. I know they were requested for an equal amount, and I don't think it's our, I don't see it as our responsibility to wait on them. You know, we have a responsibility.
I agree with you 100%. I guess, Dr. Wilson, would we be able to, and first off, this is pretty cool, Commissioner Burrell, very intelligent way to gather data, and I think we can couple this data with the $50,000 that we're utilizing for the campaign. Obviously, we'll know what neighborhoods we need penetration on the campaign, but if the city of Shreveport does not couple the funds, will we still be able to do testing within the city of Shreveport or only with outside in the parish?
I would suggest we do it relative to our areas of responsibility.
Okay.
Point of clarification, Mr. President. The Community Foundation is providing the match. The Community Foundation is providing the match.
All right. I guess then will we, so, and on the testing, and this may get in the weeds in it when the doctor comes here, but just who would actually do the testing, or do we know? Who's the entity that does the test?
LSU would be doing it.
Health Science Center do the testing. Or give they contract someone else to do it.
They're doing it.
Okay.
LSU says Health Science
Well,
Center.
I'll be supporting this. Like I said, I'm excited, Commissioner Burrell, that you brought this. Very interesting way for us to gather data on figuring out where are the hot spots within the parish. Thank you, President.
And if I could address the question about the City of Shreveport funding, in his presentation, he did mention that the City of Shreveport, now I don't know the full extent of their commitment, but they did commit some funds and some in-kind services to the project. So he did mention that they had made a contribution. I don't know the exact amount.
Sounds like they're on board then. That's
Yeah,
great.
it sounds like
okay.
And I understand community development doing 100,000, I believe, matching both of them. Right. From what I understood,
That's a good endeavor.
last, maybe different now. I don't know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just, my questions have been answered. I look forward to Thursday gathering some more information. So I'll withdraw. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, and for the rural commissioners, he just noted that if y'all let him know who those contacts are for those wastewater areas in your district. I know if you got like sewer districts and stuff like that. They're going to do the entire parish at no additional cost. So that was good news. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And the next item is going to be to authorize the resolution number 57 of 2021. It's a resolution establishing a citizen advisory committee for the Juvenile Justice Committee to study juvenile justice issues and Caddo Parish and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Mr. President, I would like to make an amendment to this resolution to add that this committee will report to the Children and Youth Planning Board and Juvenile Justice Committee. If I can get a second, I explain.
Second.
Thank you.
It's been moved by Commissioner Stormy Gates West to amend the motion to say that this committee will report to the Children
and Youth
and
Planning
Youth
Board.
Planning Board. And it was seconded by Commissioner Carter. You can speak on your motion.
Thank you. Commissioners, this resolution came out of the Juvenile Justice Committee meeting, and as it stated here, that this board will make recommendations to the committee about the juvenile detention expansion, alternatives to incarceration, also expanding wraparound services, or any other programs that may be allocated through this committee. We would also like for them to report to the Children and Youth Planning Board, which is a board that is established by state statute. These boards will work together in conjunction to make a recommendation to the full body. And I ask for your support on passing it to Thursday.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also add an amendment that this committee looks specific, or this task force committee, I'm not sure what we're calling it, that they look specifically at physical environments and make recommendations about physical environments that juveniles are living in. I don't know if that would be F or added to C. I could see where it could go either way, but if I can get a second on it.
Or E.
Or E, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'd like to be specific and add that to it if I can get a second for it.
I'm amenable to that.
Okay.
So that's a friendly amendment, and you accept the friendly amendment?
If you want to do it as
Yes.
a friendly, I'm fine. Yeah, but physical environment and make recommendations about the physical environment.
Got that, Mr. Clerk?
I believe I do, and I may reach out to clarify to make sure I got it exactly right, but I believe it was to have a specific recommendation regarding the physical environment.
Assess and recommend.
To assess and recommend. Got it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Evers.
Mr. Watts, will this committee look at any fiscal issues relative to juvenile services, because you know we're still operating at the 1958
millage.
Tax millage, and what, about over $1 million deficit we footing each year?
$4 million deficit.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner, they will. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, let's vote.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next resolution, which is a resolution creating an ad hoc American Rescue Plan Task Force and otherwise providing with respect thereto. It's resolution number 58 for 2021.
Move for introduction.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Carter.
Hopkins.
Hopkins. Huh? One here.
Either one?
Yeah, either one.
Hopkins. Commissioner Jackson, you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, you know, I like the idea that we have an American Rescue Plan committee to kind of give guidance to how those dollars will be spent, but in consultation with our legal, and I would direct you to the legal memo that's attached to the agenda. If you want to read through that memo, to basically just keep everything in order and consistent with what our charter and our bylaws say. So, like I say, I'm good with the committee. Just want to make sure it's operating consistent with our governing documents. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to table indefinitely, and if I get a second, I'll tell you where.
Second.
It was moved by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Atkins to table indefinitely. I saw the memo, but I'm also confused because in the bylaws, on Article 13, Rule number 2, it mentions an ad hoc committee. So ad hoc committee is included into our bylaws. Now, whether it's in there by mistake or not, it is in there. That the standing committee, ad hoc committee for the chamber shall consists of 3 members of the Caddo Parish Commission and 3 members of the Shreveport City Council. So it does reference ad hoc committees. This has been a past practice for many years. The reason that the bylaws was initially changed were to the fact that when people came in as presidents, they would have 8 committees, 11 committees, 12 committees. And so what we did was basically go in and standardize those committees, which were at the time 10. But now we're up to like 13 standing committees. So the rules and the bylaws, I mean, the change was basically done so that we'll have consistent names across the board for those committees, instead of one being called NGO and then the other one being called appropriations and then one being called funding for non-government organizations. It just made it consistent what those particular committees was gonna be called. It never had anything to do with not saying that we weren't gonna have any ad hoc committees, because we've had ad hoc committees almost every year that I've been here. We formed an ad hoc committee for the natural disasters when we had the flooding in 2015 and 2016. So these committees have always been intact, and once their service is over with, they've been dissolved. Has nothing to do with personality, has nothing to do with whatever. It's dealing with what's important at that particular time, trying to get a group of commissioners focused on that, and then moving forward with it. Once they tackle that service, then you disband it. The ad hoc American Rescue Plan, we're about to be finished. We may have one, maybe two more meetings left, and we're done. There's nothing else for us to do. Any other funding will come from other committees and not from the American Rescue Plan. That was more of a finance budgeting committee in order to get how we need to be expending this money coming in, and not sitting here, one person said, well, I want to spend $100,000 over here, another person said, I want to spend $500,000 over there, and then all of a sudden you like, well, where did money go? So it was mostly about a budgeting type committee, which we've pretty much done that. Now that we've got some additional funding, additional requests in, we got to try to dwindle the number down in order to fit the money that we have. That's the only purpose for the committee to be left. Once we do that, it's over with. We submit it to the full body, and it's done. But to say that this committee is illegal, doesn't fit into the bylaws, I mean, we should have been talking about that before I even got on the commission, that we can't have ad hoc committees, because we've had them all those times. Now all of a sudden, because one committee got disbanded, oh, ad hoc committees are no good. That's illegal to have as a bylaws. It's petty as, I almost said, but that's petty. And so therefore, I'm saying that I would like to table this until we finish this indefinitely, and this committee will only have a couple meetings left. Thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I respect that. We have, with the leadership of Commissioner Hopkins, we've gone through item by item by item of the bylaws, and we looked at this particular issue where it talked about ad hoc, and ad hoc only speaks to chamber use. It does not speak to any of our standing, the ability for the president to appoint a standing committee or an ad hoc committee. The specific functions and duties of the commission president are in Article 1. So those duties are laid out in Article 1. And nothing in Article 1 says that the commission president has the ability to appoint an ad hoc committee. Chamber use is talking about chamber use where you see ad hoc committee. And when they talk about ad hoc committee, that could be the ad hoc committee or the committee that we have for the Citizen Advisory Committee for the Charter. That could be for the Long Range Planning Committee, that the Citizen Advisory Group that we have there. So ad hoc is not there. And what I would hate to see is for the committee to go through all of that work, do all of that work, and withstand a potential legal violation because it's not operating within the confines of our bylaws and of our charter. And I specifically asked our legal attorney to advise on whether ad hoc committees were permissible. And the legal advice that I got was, in fact, what I was told was emphatically that they're not permissible under the charter, that no one person has the ability to create ad hoc committees. The charter, our supreme document, our constitutional document, says that the commission body can create committees. And so I've looked this thing up and down as it relates to ad hoc, and ad hoc in the bylaws right now only speak to who can use the commission chambers or the council chambers. It does not speak to the governance and function of the Parish of Caddo and the Caddo Parish Commission. So all I'm saying is we need to put this in place. The American Rescue Plan Fund, there's going to be 2 years worth of funding there. So if this body or if this committee is going to be making recommendations anywhere, it needs to have the legal authority to make those recommendations. And right now, I don't see any legal leg that it could stand on, even though it's not a final act, it's just a recommending body. What we would be saying here today is that, I can go create an ad hoc, just as a member of this body, I can go create an ad hoc committee for redistricting. And as long as we dissolve ourselves, it's permissible. And past practices are not what we're governed by. We are an organized governmental entity. And so we can't rely merely on past practices, because practices can start, they can be paused, and they can be stopped. And so I can start a practice of saying, I'm just gonna organize a group of people that's gonna get together and we're gonna do redistricting, and we're gonna make the clerk give out public notices, and we're gonna task the administration with doing work and holding meetings. That's a practice. And so we need to choose whether we're gonna follow our governing documents or we're gonna be defaulting to past practice. And I think if anybody who is out there chose to challenge legally any actions of that committee, I think it wouldn't have a legal leg to stand on because it merely relies on past practices, and that's not sufficient enough for a organized body in the state of Louisiana to operate on. I didn't do this to be petty. I actually did this as a conciliatory gesture, because I could have just sat back, wait, let the committee do what it was going to do, and found somebody, or I could have gone myself to court and challenged it. And I think, given the legal advice that I have been provided, I think I'd be pretty successful in halting anything that we would do. So we should want to make sure that we're operating within the context and within the lines of what our governing and our organizing documents say. And our organizing documents do not give the ability to do ad hoc committees. Our governing documents simply say, the bylaws simply say that ad hoc committees can use the chamber. And those ad hoc committees are the committees that have already been spelled out within the charter and within the bylaws. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Carton.
Yes, I hate to get mired in the narcissism of small differences. So at the end of the day, or the beginning of the day, by changing it to the American Rescue Act Task Force, is that a fix to this problem?
I think so.
Well, let me pose that question to Attorney Frazier.
Commissioner, if that would be a fix, however, I don't think, and if I'm wrong, correct me, Commissioner Jackson, I don't think that the resolution addresses who the members are, if it's the same committee or not.
I mean, we can blend that in.
That would be my question.
That's a question for me.
I mean, do you, according to the memo, you have your custom and practice, but if it's challenged, the committee would then fall because you don't have it in any of your documents.
Right.
You can either affirm the committee as it is, accept this resolution, or vote to disband the committee. So those are your options.
I couldn't hear you, Ms. Frazier.
You can affirm the committee as it is and as it has functioned thus far. You can accept this resolution, and if you're keeping the same committee members, that does essentially the same thing. Or you can say the committee is disbanded.
So we can give us a lot of options.
What do you say?
Well, I don't want to speak at it.
Okay, thank you. Well, in my estimation, whatever seemed to be that simplest fix that she just laid out, that's what I'm supportive of. I don't think we need to go through the exercise of creating a task force or whatever it is that Mr. Jackson is recommending, because President Johnson just laid out, and I'm a member of the committee, we only probably got 2 more committee meetings, and we'll have the funds appropriated. And then in your documentation, some of the functionality of the committee was the appropriation request of the American Rescue dollars. So in the essence of time, we need to get this done by August 31st. Let's just go ahead on and function the way we'll function and move on down the yellow brick road of life.
Commissioner Hopkins.
I move to amend this resolution to affirm the created ad hoc committee that currently stands with the members that are on the committee as of today.
Second.
Got a substitute motion of, well, it's a second substitute motion to amend with the current members of the American Ad Hoc Rescue Committee as it stands today. And it was seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Hopkins, you want to speak to your motion?
No, I think we had enough discussion. Let's just vote.
I'm sorry, what is that, Mr.?
So,
What's that do?
nothing really,
It's codifying.
I'll let Donna answer that.
What does such an amendment do?
The
Is that
proposal that Commissioner Hopkins just proposed.
basically, it's affirming, it takes this resolution, affirms the existence of the committee, which would also affirm the work that they've been done with the committee in place as it is.
Okay.
Codifies it.
Okay, so,
That's easy enough.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Call for the question.
Second?
Second?
Okay. The question has been called on everything.
On substitute.
On everything, right?
Okay.
All right, so we'll go with the last motion that was told, and that is to utilize the same members of the ad hoc committee to be on the task force.
Don't have to vote on calling for the question first?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to call for the question vote. I'm ready to go. We're gonna vote on calling for the question.
And that passes with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us back to the most recent motion.
Which would be Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes, which I believe was a resolution affirming the ad hoc American Rescue Plan Task Force and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Okay. So that's what we're voting on now.
On the call for question?
The substitute motion of adding the ad hoc committee members to the task force.
To affirm.
He affirmed
Affirms.
the existing committee is what he said.
It's the same thing.
So affirming the task force was Commissioner
voting
Hopkins'
down.
Affirm it as is right now, as is operating right now. That was his motion.
Now what you-
Yes.
I'm gonna say no, but y'all go how y'all want to. All right, I talked about it in president.
Shit, I don't know.
All right, that passes with 8 in support and 3 in opposition and 1 absent. So that advances the affirming the resolution. I mean, the resolution affirming the American Rescue Plan Task Force. Sorry. That brings us to the next item, which is actually an agenda addition that was resolution number 59 of 2021. I just bring it up here while we're in resolutions. It was a resolution requesting Caddo Parish Homeland Security and the Louisiana National Guard to assist local immigration measures and otherwise providing with respect to.
So move to Thursday?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Chavez and seconded by Commissioner Lazarus to move resolution 59 to Thursday. Commissioner Chavez, you want to speak to your motion?
Sure, thank you, President. Commissioners, we heard Ms. Francis come down here, and obviously there's a lot of questions to be had via our Homeland Security and possibly the National Guard. It sounds like ICE may be doing some things that we need some answers on. And it also sounds like, I know some of the commissioners around the Horseshoe may have better friendships with maybe Representative Cedric Berkman, or if we can reach out to the White House, but it seems like we need to do our due diligence.
Richmond.
Right.
Not Birchman, Richmond.
Oh, I didn't hear what she said, but the former rep from New Orleans. So I'd like to see if we can kind of channel some of our either lobbyists or colleagues that we know to get the citizens some answers. But I know this was on the forefront of everybody's phone call, email, and TV station over the weekend. So collectively, I'd like the fact that we're all coming together to say that we're supporting the Caddo Parish citizens. And we do thank the Church of Highland for all the work that they're doing. Thank you, President.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I just wanted to, I have a couple questions. Are we asking Caddo Homeland Security? Because my understanding was Caddo Homeland Security worked for the commission. How does that work?
Yeah, they have a contract.
So, does they have a contract?
We have a contract, but we don't direct them. They don't take direction pursuant to their contract. So they have to.
Be requested.
Yes.
I think they're looking at.
I just don't know how we keep getting into these situations where, so when they assist, what, I guess, can somebody explain to me what assisting looks like? Because what I'd hate to see is individuals get off a bus and now somebody's over there running background checks and it's wild. What do we mean by assist? I'd like to have that clarified on the record. Or do we get the ability to define what assist is?
They can offer, ask for that language in the resolution.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to get a definition for assist. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that look like?
President, may I answer that?
Yes, you can.
Thank you, President. Commissioner Jackson, I think Ms. Francis would like to see that as well.
Okay.
As well as myself. I would like the Homeland Security Director to reach out to ICE and ask them, why were we not notified? Why was he not notified? And there's got to be some type of itinerary. There's got to be a list of refugees. There's got to be some type of information that they could have provided to him as well as us, so that when the calls came from the citizens that we already knew. So I'd like
So
that.
you're not asking Homeland Security when the buses arrive to be over there, when people are over there? Or is that what you're asking, or are you asking them to do more of a due diligence before and after? Hey, if people are coming, let us know what's up, give us a heads up, and then after they leave, this is what was the case. Are you asking for them to be on site when the buses come? Or is this more of a administrative matter that you are asking?
I would say the latter. In regards to your questions, obviously, first, we had no idea. Thanks to Mrs. Francis, we're well educated now, which unfortunately, we shouldn't have had a volunteer come down to educate us. We should have had the Homeland Security Director or somebody from ICE or somebody from somebody. But now that we know what we're dealing with, I'd like the Homeland Security to reach out to ICE and get us some answers.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Evans.
I think we're directing our concerns to the wrong entity at this time. This is federal. Now, were Haitians the only immigrants that were bussed in, or was it just a plethora?
No, it was a
bunch of
immigrants.
This
According
time
to
it was
Ms.
Haitians.
Francis,
Pardon?
This time it was Haitians, but there have been 40 other countries
All right.
of immigrants coming in.
I think our federal congressional delegates should be approached relative to this. You know what I mean? You're going to sit here, you got a Homeland Security in place or whatever, and they hadn't said anything or done anything. I think we should go directly from this governmental entity to our federal delegation, including the federal Homeland Security. Because there was at one time when this harboring immigrants was a money-making factor. The jails was housing because they're getting so much a head per day. I think $40 a day.
You're absolutely right,
So,
because the
I think this is
Senator-
I
I'm
think
sorry.
this is backwards. We should direct all of our inquiries to our federal congressional delegates and the federal Homeland Security and ask them for immediate response to this situation.
They could do even better than that. They could do an inquiry.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to incorporate all of what Commissioner Epperson just said into this resolution, to direct this also to our federal delegation and to ask them for immediate action on this particular matter and
Second.
assistance. on this.
Commissioner Jackson, can I add to that? I want to have them to request a formal inquiry.
And a formal inquiry to this matter, and send a certified copy to our delegation, our federal delegation, and the Secretary of Homeland Security. I know that was a mouthful, but we got it on tape.
Now, is this a friendly resolution? Sorry, Mr. President had to step out, so he's asked me to.
I'll accept as a friendly. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so it's a friendly resolution. Mr. Clerk, can you do your best to summarize that before we vote on this resolution?
It's a little tough, but I mean, what I wrote down
How about
is-
just the gist of it?
Yeah, essentially, we're directing it towards the federal delegation and other appropriate federal parties, an inquiry and asking for more inquiry.
Yes. And what I usually do is I usually email you the clarified.
Yeah,
version, or you
and
go
we'll
back
make
and
sure
watch
that permanent, that we consult with the makers of that motion to make sure that we get the language correct for the Thursday.
For Thursday, okay.
But and just to speak on, I agree with Commissioner Epperson is that our federal delegation has to be point and center on these matters, as well as the Secretary of DHS. We can't just let this be some sort of laissez-faire, lax situation. So we have to put pressure, and we have to have an expectation that they're going to respond and follow up to figure out what happened. And so, I saw where Senator Cassidy issued a statement, but issuing the statement is not getting to the bottom of what happened. And so we need to make sure that we're asking them to get to the bottom of what happened and work with our local team here to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Mr. Clerk, are we ready to vote on this amended resolution? Do I need to vote from my side over here, or can you, I need to go around?
You can check it.
All right, sir, let's vote.
And that passes with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent to advance that Resolution 59 as amended. That brings us to the next item, authorize a special resolution celebrating the Shreveport Mud Box.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Chavez, second by Commissioner Lazarus. Any comments there, Commissioner
The
Chavez?
winners of the cup. That's amazing. Again.
Might we want to englobo any of these here?
And Globo.
That's the motion to Globo, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. go
12,
ahead.
13, 14, 15, 16.
Hold on, I've got multiple. we
Oh,
got
okay.
Commissioner Burrell,
Motion to Globo, what is that?
14, no, that's 19, sorry.
19, 20, 21.
You may also want to include the agenda addition that was a special resolution. In there.
Okay, the agenda edition, 22. I guess that's it, huh?
Okay.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell to englobo the agenda addition as well as item 19, 20, 21, and 22. Would you like to comment on any of that?
No, sir, let's go.
Okay. Any discussion? Are we ready to vote? All right, let's vote, Mr. Clerk. I'm getting my exercise now.
And that motion carries with 9 in support, none in opposition, and 3 absent. That brings us to the next item, which is discussion and action on ongoing COVID-19 pandemic CDC protocol for public meetings and government plaza chambers.
Yes, sir. If we look at our agenda, I think with the up and down situation relative to what's happening with the COVID pandemic and the change in things from the CDCs and the various protocols, I think we should include at the top of our agenda what our protocols are, where persons that get the agenda out ahead of time will know prior to coming down here. If we want anyone coming in the chamber, you must be masked. That should be listed at the top. I think we should even have decorum in the chamber given out at the beginning of our meetings, where people walking around, conversing and sashaying all around the chamber. These are things that can spread the germ. You know, some people have masks, some people don't have masks. I think this is something that we need to really focus on. It needs to be in writing at the top of our agenda and sent out when our agenda is sent out ahead of time, where anyone that's looking to come here will know in writing what's expected of them, and then once they get here, what decorum is required of them once they come into the chambers. And as I speak on this, I know we got the plexiglass up and all, but I'm looking at my plexiglass and I don't know when they did some cleaning, but it's a lot of spots and things on all of them.
I'm sorry.
So that's the reason for my bringing that up. I think we need to put something in writing. In my meeting that I have, I let it known at the top of my agenda what's it doing. If your cell phone, silence your cell phone. If you go off, you're gonna be fine. Your protocol, let everyone know from the top. And I think this body should do the same thing with the way that situations are going up and down.
Okay, Commissioner Everson. So I assume, a discussion item is, I guess, intended to just be that, to discuss?
That's correct.
There's no resolution being proposed or
Right.
ordinance being proposed?
But since we always committee and everything, it may be, if there's an appropriate committee where it can go to and be discussed, I'll suggest that would happen.
Yeah, maybe we go to long-range planning committee.
And
Policies and
long
procedures.
range, don't want it to be too long, but
It's not a
anyway.
pandemic committee.
Don't want to go
Also,
down.
while I'm discussing this, we've having so many pop-up committee meetings. It appears as though the committee meetings at the convenience of primarily members. I would like to suggest that we entertain that, since we have all these committee meetings, that we do them via Zoom and teleconference, so we can minimize our public gatherings. And then if you're gonna do it in the little small committee rooms, I think we got to step up and we have to change with the time. And it's more efficient. Probably about 30% of the private sector is going to be doing remote work from now on, saving space costs, parking for the employees, expenses, and I think we need to look at doing the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Everson. Commissioner Jackson, you had a comment?
Yes, Commissioner Everson, I'd be happy to discuss this in a pandemic committee meeting about what our protocols will be, because I'd like for our clerk to also not only put it on the agenda what our protocol is going to be for the public that's attending our meeting. I'd like to see it posted in, at least on the front doors when they come in, as well as something that's posted visibly before they enter into Government Plaza. What our protocols is. I received a note last time that we met, which was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but there was a concern from a citizen who was here that felt we were just too lax, that the public, not us, the public was too lax with regard to COVID protocol, and said that one person was just all in her face. And so, you know, it's just, we do have to be mindful that, you know, we don't know what the public symptoms, and we're not asking what their symptoms are. We're not asking if they're vaccinated or anything. But I think some people are still, who wander out, they still want to have certain things like 6 feet apart, things like that. They just want to know that we're doing our part to keep them safe as well. We are separated by partitions here. When we first came down, Dr. Wilson, we used to have the seats kind of marked off, and I don't even see that anymore. So, you know, if we could start, make sure that we getting back, you know, like I said, we don't have to be extreme, but just some type of notification and due diligence, Jeff, Dr. Wilson, on our part for that. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
thank you, Commissioner Jackson. And if your committee wants to bring that to the body, that'd be great. We can vote on our body at that time.
Okay.
Dr. Wilson, you're on the board?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Atkins. I just want to remind the board that we only own 27% of the space in this building, and we have to do this in cooperation with the city of Shreveport. They have to both be on the same page. We can't have one set of rules and they have another. So those rules need to be combined. We need to talk to them about it and make sure they're on board with it as well.
That makes sense. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Gosh, more people on the board. I can't read that. Ken Uppers, is it Commissioner Uppers?
Yes, sir. Well, Dr. Wilson, we own 100% of Caddo Parish Commission meetings, right? When we're meeting, right? Huh? Well, our committee meetings, am I right?
Yes, sir.
And we can control that protocol, right?
Yes, sir. And we do have a set of protocols that governs our meetings, sir.
Okay.
And I'll be glad to share, that has not changed, and I'll be glad to share that with the clerk. We have that in writing.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Uppers. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Vice President. Are we under communications? I want to check.
No, we're under this discussion topic, item number 23.
Okay, my screen is frozen, so I'll yield till communications.
Okay, good, because we still have some agenda left and we're losing people quickly. All right, so we're down to, go ahead, Mr. Clerk, down to 24.
The next item is discussion of permits for holding events on private land in Caddo Parish.
Commissioner Uppers.
Okay, many of you may have heard about the so-called trail ride in DeSoto Parish that ended up having a few altercations. There was a subsequent trail ride that was going to happen in Caddo, and few people got their shorts in a wedgie about it. However, I'm an individual that don't stereotype me based upon what someone else does. I understand now that there is a permitting process for holding events on land, and I think it goes through the MPC. And what I can always say is, when we know better, we do better. So the organization that requested that trail ride had a wonderful job. They had several thousand people out there, no incidents, and they are going to come down Monday and Thursday and thank us for allowing that and introduce themselves as to who and what they are. And but the thing about it, we do have a process in place. I have articulated this to my constituents via teleconference and email and everything. There was also an issue of a private party on Rice Road which started this. However, we never did get any resolution to it prior to the party taking place on Rice Road. However, I did get calls from the constituents, and I drove out personally that Sunday when it was in place, and everything was neat and orderly. Nothing happened there. But the thing is, once we know that there's a process in place, let's make sure that we articulate it and that we use it, and hopefully use it equally. I understand there are big crawfish bars in certain places in the parish. I don't know if they get permits. I understand there's big fish fries in portions of the rural areas. I understand there's a big function on Crestwell in the heart of the city for a nonprofit. Don't know if they get permits, but the thing about it is whatever that we have in place, that everyone should have to go through the same procedures and follow the same policies. That's all I have relative to that.
You suggesting liberty and justice for all?
That's been around a long time, but you know how that stands.
Commissioner Epperson, you wanted to discuss oil and gas operations complaints.
Yes, I am in the process where you heard a couple of people came down today. You got a letter from Representative Glover. Now the oil and gas is closing in on the urban areas, high density residents. So the issues are not the same as they were when they were leasing out into the rural areas where you got massive expanses of vacant land. Of course, the lease bonuses aren't the same either. The $24,500 an acre, some spots back then, now only $1,000, $1,500 to $2,000 mineral acre. However, they're drilling in densely populated areas. There are concerns. There's been issues where certain parts of the parish where drilling noise complaints was called in to the operator, and they housed the residents in a hotel during the peak drilling noise. They paid for their hotel expenses while they were fracking. And I don't know if many of you have been around the fracking, but it sounds like a jet engine. A lot of high pressure water and gases, a lot of odors, a lot of organic vapors in there, a lot of dust, trucks in and out all the time in these dense areas. I was on the way to the Veterans Cemetery the other day down Colquitt Road in 789. I almost got run off the road once on Colquitt and twice on 789 before I made it to the cemetery with the oil and gas trucks. So there are some things that are complaints of the citizens, and all of the citizens should be treated equally, irrespective to their social or economic status, irrespective to whether they are urban or they are rural. And there's much discussion to be brought about in this, and I'm addressing with Ms. Fraser relative to some subsequent ordinances that I'm proposing. She's researching that. She's behind on it this week because she had an issue where she couldn't be here. So you'll be hearing from me again relative to this situation. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Epperson, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, where do you have us now?
Brings us to the final item under new business, which is to authorize Commissioners Chavez and Young to travel to San Antonio in order to observe San Antonio's Animal Court. This is just a requested approval of travel for something that was discussed during the Animal Services Committee. Your bylaws do require that if it isn't one of the pre-approved items of travel for the year, that the body approve.
Okay, you want to speak to that?
I'll speak on it. Thank you, Chairman. The as the clerk stated, we changed some of our travel policy when we first got elected. I know 4 of us did.
Make a motion for it?
Does a motion need to be made?
It's
just discussion.
It's authorized, Commissioners. Is that a motion? To be made?
Oh, okay. Then yeah, I'll make a motion to forward this to Thursday if I can get a second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, as I was stating, we changed some of our bylaws to where we couldn't just travel at will, which I think was a great thing because there was accusation that certain commissioners, none on the current board, but predecessors, were traveling all over and putting on the parish dime, and didn't think that was right. So what we did is we put together some procedures to where there are certain educational programs that we're allowed to go throughout the year. But if additional requests need to be made to go to different classes, observe different technology or policies, procedures, and other various industries, that we had to come before the committee to ask before the full board. What we're asking is myself and Commissioner Young, as well as parish attorney and a couple of acting people from the Animal Services, can go to San Antonio to look at what they've established is an animal court. And the animal court allows them to just focus on a day's basis with a judge, the prosecutor, some attorneys, to just focus on animal service issues. And I know a lot of the times here, whenever our ACOs do their job, and they do a great job, however, they go out there and they cite either animals at large, owners, or people that are treating animals inhumanely, and then those end up on the docket in our court here. That they don't get treated with the importance that they need to, because our court dockets are filled with a lot of criminal issues within Caddo Parish. The local judges and the DA, they push those aside, rightfully so, thinking that there's more important things. So what we're going to try to look at is how can we implement just an animal court on one day where that's all that is going to be on the docket, so that we can effectively focus on addressing the issues that circulate around animals in our parish. So that's what we'd like to see, is how did they set that up, and how can we set up something similar?
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Epson, are you back on the board, or is that left over?
I think it was left over.
Okay, I'm gonna clear the queue here. All right, so we have a motion and a second to authorize Commissioner Chavez and Young to travel to San Antonio. This is just a motion to advance to Thursday.
Yes.
Mr. Clerk, any comments on this before we go to a vote? Mr. Clerk, can we vote on this matter, please?
Ready to vote? And that motion carries with 8 in support, none in opposition, and 4 out of the chamber. That brings us to communiques and committee reports.
Okay, it's getting late. Anyone on the board? We've got Chavez.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll make this real quick. Commissioner Epson, thank you for addressing the Twilight Meadow subdivision resolution. I know the lady came down, made an emotional plea, and it's good to see that that's getting taken care of. Mr. Wilson, Chuck is out there. No, he took off. I'll save this to Thursday. And then for Southern Hills, we had a neighborhood cleanup, and it was a great success. I want to thank Shreveport Green, Stephen Walker, Tim Weaver, the crew of Oceanus, Sweet Glazed Donuts on Juella, Southern Hills Business Association. I think I even saw MJ out there who came out to help. So thanks for everybody that put that on. I'll yield the other comments to Thursday in the essence of time. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Acting President. I won't be here Thursday, but I want to thank Patrick and Ms. Katina with Parks and Recreation. I don't know. Okay. I've received nothing but great stuff about the safe summer support that the Stony Hill community received. They really enjoyed it, and I think they're going to come down and present us with a T-shirt or something like that. But they really enjoyed it. It's something that individuals in the community look forward to, and I think y'all they went above and beyond helping. They put their flyer together, provided events and activities for them, and provided some food for them. And so we want people to take pride in where they stay, and that's what the Safe Summer initiative is about. And so I won't be here Thursday to say it, but Patrick, I appreciate you and Ms. Katina. And I think y'all had some other events that y'all are supporting throughout the parish, and so I appreciate you. I think I have 1 or 2 more that I need you to help with, and so I'll get with you on that. But I just wanted to say thank you. Dr. Wilson, our summer workers, I know they have started or whatnot, but I'm always asking if they could come down. Part of their is come down and be a part of our commission meeting so that they can learn what we do. They don't have to sit through the whole thing if they don't want to, but maybe the next work session or the next whatever. If y'all can get them together Thursday, I don't know. If it's too short of a notice, that's fine. But whatever our next meeting is to get them together, and maybe.
Yeah, we do have training. We had professional development training for them.
Great.
Week before last.
Right.
And Ms. Thompson and her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I also spoke before them. So
Okay.
we have them all in here, and
Yeah.
we give them more than just a work experience.
Right.
We give them some practical knowledge about
Right.
how to be successful on the job as well.
Right. So I definitely would like to see how we can get them to attend
Yeah, I'll get Cheryl on that.
a commission meeting so that they can
Right.
see,
How government works.
how government works at the parish level, introduce themselves, that's public speaking, things like that.
Right.
And so I think it's just a good experience that they see a level of government functioning.
Okay.
That concludes what I have for right now. I'll get with you, Dr. Wilson, about some of the things
Okay.
that we've been going back and forth on. And just thank you to your team for the work on the Housing Trust Fund. I mean, not the Housing Trust Fund, the rental assistance.
Right.
It's always evolving,
Right.
and it doesn't seem like it's going to get easier. You think exhausting all our money, it'd be getting easier, but it looks like it's getting a little bit more interesting
Right.
at this point, in particular, when the moratorium for the last time will expire. So
July 31st.
roll up our sleeves and be prepared. I do want to say, because I won't be here on Thursday, I do want to say that the resolution, I won't be here to speak to it, but the resolution for the American Rescue Plan, I want to be very clear to let folks know that's not anything that was spitefully done or pettily done. Dr. Wilson and I talked, and his question to me was, how do we move past this?
Yes.
And so I asked Attorney Frazier to prepare a memo or a briefing on what her thoughts were on how the committee is stood up. I was traveling on Friday, so I didn't get a chance to look at what was put on there, but I'll let Todd know. I appreciate him for adding that aspect of just affirming, because that's all I was looking to do, was simply affirm and follow the proper process that we need to have to stand up any committee. Again, nobody can just come in right now on our body and just stand up a committee. If that's the case, you can rest assured I'll start exercising my right or my discretion to do so on matters that I may feel the need to do. And so we have governing documents for a reason, and I hope that we would choose to follow those. A lot of us have to understand that these things are put in place for a reason, and we just can't blow past our governing documents. And so again, I just want to reassure everybody that it was more of a conciliatory thing that I thought was taking place, and I hope that in my absence on Thursday that you all will affirm that committee so that they can do the work, even if it's past the next 1 or 2 meetings that need to be done, because those dollars are here for the next 5 years. So it's a 5-year process. So thank you, Mr. Acting President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
And thank you to Commissioner Chavez for standing in for me a couple of weeks ago too. So thank you.
Parliamentarian Burrell, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to pass my remarks to Thursday, but it was going to be on sickle cell softball tournament, in which we had a successful tournament, except the fact that rained us out right at the end. But we had people all the way from New Mexico.
Great.
So I just reserved more to Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I want to also commend Patrick Wesley and Katita Williams. We did a Say Summer program, and they did a yeoman's job in putting it together, execution and everything. So I want to publicly applaud them also. And then secondly, I want to wish my fellow colleague, Vice President John Atkins, happy birthday today.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner.
All right, should we spank him or what?
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
What's it like when you reach 40? What's it going to be like?
You'll know. I'm rubbing my knees right now.
All right. Thank you.
You didn't tell us how old
Any other communiques or committee reports?
Just need to get an
Or
administrative
commissioner
report.
remarks, I should say.
Just need to get the administrative report.
Yes, sir. Dr. Wilson, administration report.
Yes, sir. I'll be real quick with mine today. As it relates to the Confederate Monument, we had some more people come out and take a look at it, and we're waiting on a couple of the quotes that we think we'll get from that process. Still trying to work within the confines of our budget restraints on that. Also, the E. Edward Jones Housing Trust Fund, we have gotten 2 RFP submittals, and we'll be evaluating that. That should be done next week. We'll do it this week, and we should conclude next week with a selection of the agency that will be handling the housing trust fund for us. Also, I-49 signs are still waiting on the state permit process. The FEMA COVID-19, FEMA had approved our MOU, and we have submitted our cost estimates of $700,000. We're waiting on the FEMA initial review of the costs. Once FEMA determined we have an allowable cost, then a project within an application will be started to submit for various supporting documents. And that's where we are with that.
But they approved it, is what I heard you say.
Yes, they approved the MOU. Okay. And also, we talked about the rental assistance program. My hat's off to Ms. Haley for doing a wonderful job, and her and Erica.
and the team, we had dispensed $10.3 million in that program, and we're working with the state to get additional funding allocations to continue. You should have before you the income statement for the month of June at your desk. And Commissioner Young is not here today, but he would like to know that we have 22 kids in the detention center, 6 are OJJ, and 6 17-year-olds, and 1 18-year-old, which probably will not be there long. And there are 8 youth in CCC at this present time. And the last thing I'd like to do is introduce Mr. Tracy Calloway. Tracy is our new IT manager. And he's done the job a few months, but he replaced Nathan Slichtermeyer, who went to Denver, Colorado, on another employment opportunity. So he's very proficient. He lives here in Caddo Parish, or I bought a house here in Caddo Parish. So welcome addition to our team.
What
district does he live in?
So we've changed.
He lives in your district.
Guess I better behave.
District 3. Okay, thank you, Teresa. We appreciate it. And I think that concludes my comments for the day. Unless you have anything for me.
I think Commissioner Burrell may have a question for you, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is our new IT person. I thought we just got one a few months ago. Is that a hot spot or something?
Well, he is the new IT person, but a lot of folks kept referring to Nathan Slichtermeyer.
Right.
And I said, perhaps we haven't brought him before you formally introduce him.
Okay, I didn't recognize him because we've been in one meeting together, I guess.
Yes, sir.
At the
You've been in a
chamber.
couple of meetings over on the broadband together.
Okay.
But a lot of folks in the commission didn't know who he is.
Okay. One other thing, Dr. Wilson, the I-49, the I-49 situation, not the sign, but is it about time for an update on that, or
Yes,
nothing
sir.
has changed?
I should be getting one on Friday. We have the NLCOG meeting on Friday at the port. You're welcome to attend with me if you like.
Okay, well, let me know about it.
Yes, at 9 o'clock Friday morning at the port.
Send me a note on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, in the Commerce building out there. I'll send you a note. I'll send you the agenda.
One other thing, I had a constituent, well, it's not my constituent, used to be my constituent on the council and on the state legislatures, right there at Billsbury Park. She complained about a horse being in a lot next to her. I didn't think that we permitted horses in the city.
Yes, sir, you can. You can. We have certain requirements that they have to meet spatial wise. If you can give me the address, we can get it checked out.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Cawthorn, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to address Dr. Wilson. Can we publicly state who the two finalists are for the management of the Edward Jones Trust Fund? Otherwise, I can talk with you offline.
We have that, sir, but it's upstairs on our desk. I don't have it on mine.
All right, we talk offline.
Yes, but you want me to email it to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we can email it to you. We have it upstairs.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn.
Okay.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, Dr. Wilson, the mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, has some ideas on how you could get the monument down if y'all, he says, if y'all are really motivated.
I've got a lot of people who want to tell me how to take it down. That's not an issue. We're not lacking ideas on how to take it down.
Well, I sent you the article on how he got it down there. Commissioner Cawthorn, I got that email. One of them, I'm sorry, did somebody?
Commissioner Cawthorn stepped
He's
down.
behind you. He's behind you.
National Development Council was one of the companies that answered the solicitation, and I forgot the name of the second group that did it. But I just wanted to say thank y'all for getting that done and getting that National Development. I'm not plugging anybody, but they are a reputable company, and Treasury actually stood them up almost like a little small bank. So,
Yeah,
and
we've
they're
lost a
familiar.
quorum. What's the protocol when we lose a quorum?
Oh, we ain't got nothing to vote on.
You
I'm just
can't
talking.
vote on anything.
All right.
You talk without voting.
So yeah, so So to know that we've had a company of that value submit for us, I'm excited. Hopefully, if they prevail, but I look forward to speaking with you about that. On the FEMA COVID-19 reimbursement piece, we still have until September, and so maybe some of this testing and vaccination push that we know we need to do, maybe some of that can also go into this FEMA reimbursement, because it will cover up to September 2021. So I just want everybody to know that we still have that time. So I appreciate you and your team for following up, and to know that we've made progress on that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Acting.
All right, thank you. Let's see, President's report, I will leave that for Commissioner Johnson to give his report on Thursday.
That brings us to citizens' comments, late arrival. I've not received any.
All right, consent agenda, we're all good with the consent agenda?
Move to adjourn.
All right, move to adjourn, and I think that's by acclamation, so we'll see y'all Thursday.
Thank you, John.
Commissioner Burrell.
Okay.
Someone called me, a young man called me today.